All right. We will get started. I'll call the Harrington City Council meeting on Wednesday, 9/11 to order at 7 p.m. And we will recognize our visitors. If you could just state your name loud enough so our clerk can hear you.
Steve Marsh with TD&H Engineering.
Tyler James.
Janice Cepeda.
Jess Sylvan.
Mark Womack.
All right. Silhan. All right, Tim's here. So, I think the council got the email yesterday afternoon from Levi Shank that he wouldn't be here tonight. So, we do have a quorum. And Marge and Scott. You got all the names?
Janice, what's your last name?
Cepeda, CEPEDA.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additions to the agenda? No?
Welcome.
All right. One thing that we forgot to put on the agenda, we were waiting for someone to tell us, but apparently didn't happen. But we need to close. We just need to close our hearing for our 6-year plan at the bottom.
What?
We have to close our hearing. We have a hearing tonight for the 6-year plan, so we just have to add to close the hearing of the 6-year plan. So, okay. Approval of minutes of the council meeting for last. Let's see. Real quick, just so you know, we made. It says the agenda here is for August 7th, 2019. This is really for September 11th on the top. Sorry, that's my bad. We had a dickens of a time. On Friday we used whiteout, we used all kinds of good things. A lot of changes.
Tested our skills.
So, the minutes from the August 7th council meeting. Any corrections or clarifications, modifications?
One of the first times we had minutes that don't seem to have typos, or I haven't seen any yet. My congratulations to the composer.
No, see, Justin kind of reviews them for me, so 3 eyes are better than one.
I didn't see any when I read them.
All right, well, we'll entertain a motion when you guys are ready.
I move that the August 7th meeting minutes be accepted as presented.
Motion by Council Member McClellan, seconded by Councilmember Davenport. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have another guest visitor. Treasurer Cronrath has
Cronrath.
blessed us with his presence tonight, so thank you for attending. All right, approval of bills for August. Those are passed out.
And then I have the vouchers and all the bills here if you have any further questions.
I have one quick one on the bottom of the front page. RC worst for contactors overload. Those electrical parts.
Heavy.
Those are pump contactors.
Like overloads?
And
Okay.
for the lagoon.
Perfect.
We got another bill today
And
from them for like $3,500, I think, for a pump. I mean, it was part of, I think, all of that, but the bill came separately, so that'll be on next month's bills, but we had a pump go out down there.
Is that the supplier for most of the stuff for the lagoons? Is that the company RC
We
Worst?
built with them, and they were represented for Orinco that built the panels, and they installed all that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Question on the bills, list of bills. How soon on the day of the meeting can we get them?
Well, they were ready about 3 o'clock today, I
Today.
guess.
I forgot, we discussed this 2 meetings ago.
Do you, if you, the problem if I do them too soon, then I keep getting bills in the mail.
That's right.
But I can certainly try and get them out to you sooner if that would make,
Well, I can come in a few hours before the meeting and get a copy. I like to go through them
I'm
in
sure you
detail,
do.
and I understand the problem the clerk faces too.
but if I could just get them done on Tuesday, and I'd shoot for that, but it, yeah.
So just to
No.
note too, we had a really heavy month's current expense, almost $20,000. Some of that, we had the auditor bill for the accountability audit came in. We had our third quarter payment to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office of $6,600. Water, we had, H.T. Fowler, almost $1,400 for some meters as part of our thing. So I think total this month's bills were $52,000.
Right.
So kind of think higher than normal, but really, the pump thing, this one pump here, which isn't even that expensive yet, but we had the pump go out, which is kind of a mandatory thing we needed to have, and some of these other things are just scheduled. That's how they kind of fall. But I was reminded today too that, from a budget standpoint, we even looked at it last month. Everything looked fine, but on paper it does. But then it's we sometimes can get pinched, just when the time of the month or time of the quarter, because we don't get we get a big payment from the county for property taxes in November, which is usually a big chunk of cash to the city.
One in May and one in
May and November, yeah. So just an FYI.
Just kind of consider before you approve things that come flying by that, that if they were budgeted, and just because you budgeted X number of dollars doesn't mean you have to spend it all in one fell swoop either, because it's nice to,
From the treasurer, we want to leave money in those accounts. We have not much room to play with, I'll be honest.
thank you, Mike.
I think too, next month we haven't talked to the treasurer yet, but the clerk and I were talking today about asking the treasurer to come to the next meeting and go through the treasurer's report with us. So just so we had a better, as we start the budgeting process, and we have, one fund that has, several $100,000 in it, but we can't touch it, just so it kind of gives us a better idea. So that's something to look forward to for next month.
I have a question. Under cemetery on the second page, the last item is, there are 2 MKB lawn care payments of the same amount.
Yes, the bill comes and I cut it, 2/3 goes to the cemetery and 1/3 goes to the parks.
But we had two bills that, we had one there,
One
The-
was for July and one was for August.
the first one came late, so we paid
It
two.
was in that,
Okay.
in IFT 2082 was the first one.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so if anyone, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills if there's no other questions.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Davenport,
Second.
by Councilmember Tipton. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you, council. All right, at this time, we would like to, see, at 7:10, we'd like to open the public hearing on the 6-year street program.
Thank you.
So you guys have in front of you a list of actually the current projects that were on the radar for the 6-year transportation improvement program previously. I worked with Rick Becker, obviously he did it before I did, and I say I worked with him, but to be honest with you, he really did most of this year for me, kind of showing me how. But if you guys see the ones from last year, these are the same projects that were on there, and we rolled them forward to be up to date from 2020 going forward. Same projects. There's a spot on here for total funds at the end of this, and that's an estimated cost for those projects, and those have been adjusted even though it's the same project. The prices have been adjusted, and we'll go forward with some funding, hopefully, on some of these, trying to get some funding for this stuff going forward. I don't know a ton about this. This is my first time going through it. I'm gonna hopefully learn a lot more going forward, but I don't know a ton on it yet. If you guys do have questions, I will try to answer them. And if I cannot answer them, I can certainly get with Rick Becker and get them answered for you guys.
So the prices were adjusted based on,
So these are estimate numbers for the project going off of other bid tabulations from other projects that Rick had put together previously last year. And then these are adjusted just using newer bid tabs, which are just, what are other people paying?
it's basically
For-
updates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
So you can look and see what people are paying for, curb and gutter, sidewalk per whatever the measurement is in other places, and then those are the prices that are used to put together an estimate, because we don't know what that contractor or whoever does the project is actually going to bid that. So that's how the adjustment is. So last year, if it was so much per square yard or cubic yard, this year maybe it's $10 more, and so everything's adjusted for that.
Okay, thank you.
You also want those numbers to be fat.
Yeah.
Okay,
To be what?
fat.
You want to overestimate on those numbers. That what you're looking at is primarily for federal funding through your RTPO.
Sorry, RT.
Regional Transportation Planning Organization. I think I got that right. I can't remember if it's Quadco here.
Yeah, we're Quadco.
You're Quadco.
Yeah.
So Quadco essentially has this. The state gets a certain amount of money from the feds, and the state administers it. And the state kind of sometimes divvies it out to Quadco and Spokane Regional Transportation Council and the Wenatchee Douglas Transportation Council. Then you can put in for projects that way, and then you get then they determine whether you're worthy of receiving the money, and then that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I didn't explain that. If guys don't know the process to get funding for this, so
You'll
thank
see on
you.
here too, it says agency, Harrington County, Lincoln, MPO, RTPO, and it says Quadco RTPO, so. And just because they're on here, and you'll see dates, doesn't mean that's when they're, I was excited one year because the street that I live on has been number one for 5 years, but still, now it's slated for 2023, so, or 2022, so, but they could be on here for 20 years. And previously, Rick had started this, working probably with Scott too, and probably previous engineers, I'm imagining, but with the projects we needed the most. So like for a while, Second Street project was on here, and then it actually we did get grant funding for it, so.
Yes, and Rick has previously, and I'm going to work with Rick and both our engineer at the county as well, which is somebody that he worked with previously on some of this, on some of the cost and different things, so.
If you guys ever get into a bind with that, you can call me. We do that for free for our clients. We input it into the WashDoc program for that. So if Rick's too busy or something, Rick's a great resource.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm just giving you another option.
Okay.
That we do that for about 5 or 6 different clients.
Okay, great.
I
What
think
was the program you mentioned, Steve?
Is it the secured access?
Is it SAW? I can't
Yeah.
remember. There's so many acronyms when it comes to
I
the
know.
state.
That's why I always ask.
There's a program that all of this stuff is inputted into for, in your case, Quadco, so it kind of gets everybody's application in there, figures it all out. So,
all right. So we'll
Is
leave.
One more question, if
Yeah.
I may, while we're on this topic. I've seen these proposed programs in the past, of course, but I've never understood how the specific individual projects get lumped in a group. Do you know,
As far as like the list of projects that we have in here?
for example, page 2, there are 5 projects, A, B, C, D, and E. And page 3, there are also separate projects. How do they get selected to be on this list?
It's done by us, so whether it be me or Rick or Steve,
Scott?
Scott, absolutely. It's a list that we come up, it's a wish list for us to say, hey, can you give us some money for this? Here's our top 5 things that we really need done. And so each one of these pages is one project.
so you can move them around if you want.
When they fund these, they do specifically fund each project. So if they look through here and say, okay, we're going to give you money for project 5, you have to
They're
do
gonna
that.
start at the top.
Okay, so whatever our first choice is.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's one thing I probably should have told you is the likelihood of getting federal funding at this level is remote. I'm not going to
Yeah.
it just is. But they will start at the top. So whatever your top choice is, better be your top choice. Don't have your top choice as number 3, because if you go back to them and say, no, we really want this funded,
Too bad.
I've seen them go too bad, or, well, I've got a different municipality that's willing to take the money, so thank you.
Yeah. So we gotta be ready.
What they're looking at as far as the rating of the project and the grants, so always you want to put your highest paying project at the top, the one that's likely going to get you the money.
That makes sense.
We're rooting for you, Justin.
Yeah. That's fine. 'Cause we did get some we did get some.
TIB has nothing to do with this.
Oh, that's what it says here. State Fund Code TIB.
Sure. I mean, you're telling the state how it's being funded, but
Oh.
TIB could care less about what you do.
Like that Gloria, for that project we have right now, she talked about the bottom. I think Stevie told us, like, to the bottom of 5th Street. I said, why? It needs to go 2 blocks up because that's where the worst of it is, but that's where it needs to be completely ground down and then started. So it's, that's the money that they offered was like maybe a couple $100,000 versus, maybe it's 5 times that or something. But so, all right. So we'll leave the hearing open, and if anything else comes up during the course of our meeting, we can bring it back up. I just wanted to move something around real quick. We had code compliance report first, and then the small water system funding. But since Steve is here, and he drove in from Spokane, I'd rather give him the floor, and we can talk about that for a few minutes, or
Sure.
as long as you need. So,
Sure. Thank you, Justin. If you didn't hear, I called him too much.
Nah.
Don't know what I was thinking. Well, thank you for having me. As with everything from my pea-brain mind, I need to start at the very 25,000 foot level and work my way down. That's the only way I can think. So, starting at the very beginning, why are we doing a water system plan in the first place? It's a great question. For several reasons we are doing it. One, once you have an approved water system plan, you can apply for Department of Health funding to improve your water system. And that could be, I think their funding program this year is 30 million, I want to say, statewide. But that's typically how a lot of municipalities get their water mains replaced, get new reservoirs and whatever. Second reason why we're doing this is if we apply to Community Development Block Grant, USD Rural Development, Public Works Trust Fund again, the fact that you have this plan elevates your points in your project in points because it shows, hey, these guys actually have a plan. as opposed to some yahoo coming off the street deciding he wants to, you know, drill a new well because he decided he wants some money. So it elevates your project that way. It creates an owner's manual for your water system. It will have your water rights in it. It will have how many connections you can have. It will have how many wells, what's your production, what's your consumption. It will look out 6 years from now and say, what does the system look like then? 20 years from now, what does your system look like? And based off that information, we prioritize a list of projects for you guys to approve based on what's going to fail first. And it kind of outlines when do we anticipate this stuff happening, so you guys have a plan moving forward for how much money will we need in year 2025. So those are basically the reasons why we're doing this. They're not cheap to do. I am hopefully, where's some wood, overestimating the amount of funding we're going to need on it. I would much rather ask for too much money and give some back as opposed to coming up short. We are asking for $88,000, of which $34,000-ish has already been awarded through the Public Works Trust Fund. What that looks like is a low interest loan for 5 years. I'll talk about the order here a little bit later. We're going to go after two other different types of funding, one through Community Development Block Grant, and that's a grant, which is money that they give you, you don't have to worry about paying back. The most we can ask for a water system plan is $24,000. So we're going to ask for $24,000. We're going to apply for that in the next funding cycle, which should be June of next year. This fall, we are also going to be asking for $30,000 from USDA, another grant. Again, don't have to pay it back. I'm going to have to work with Bunny on this one because USDA does not make things easy, so we need to essentially sign over our firstborns for us to be eligible for this grant. But with that being said, of the funding, we are hoping at most 38% of it is loan, 62% of it is grant. That's what we're hoping to do. Now, we wouldn't start on this until we had all the funding secured, which at the earliest would probably be September of next year. The way we would spend the money is we would spend the grant money first, and then we would use whatever loan we have at the end. That way, one, you're not drawing on your loan early, and two, it's much easier to turn back Public Works Trust money back to them and say, hey, we just didn't need it all. So that's how we would draw it.
What was the amount on the USDA?
$30,000.
30.
That's the 88.
And the percentage loan and grant is 38 and
38% loan, 62% grant. I don't remember the terms of your loan. I don't remember interest rate.
0.63.
0.63%?
Yeah. So it was going to add about, we figured what, 277 per connection
Okay.
per month for the 5 years. We did all the math last
Yes, we
last
did.
meeting. Our question was, because we got all this emails and notifications from the state, DOE, Department of Health saying, hey, congratulations, but we didn't know, like, do we accept it now, like accept that loan now, or do we wait till, because you said
No, accept it now.
we just don't have to draw on it.
Yeah, what I would need to do is talk with Carrie Sample, is that her name?
Yes.
Your regional? And let her know that we have two more shoes to drop before we will even start
That's good.
talking about this.
Okay.
And I clearly identified it in our application, our timeline, starting in 2021, because we have to wait to get funding through community development. As long as we communicate with them, we'll be fine.
Okay. Great. So we just need to work, that's our next step then, because we didn't know at our last meeting, and that's when we ended up having our meeting a week early, and then right after that you were on vacation, And so we were trying to figure out if we needed to like accept it now without knowing these other things, or how it all works. So thank you for explaining that to us.
And I will double check with her to make sure everybody's on the same page with that.
All right.
There, Bunny, do you remember, was there any principal forgiveness?
I don't remember seeing any.
Okay. All right. I don't remember it either.
Very kind of
Let me get
Yeah, I don't know if there was principal forgiveness.
And if we thought it started at 7:30.
It's a library, don't you know? Oh.
Okay, you bet. Check real quick. Justin, did you have any more questions? Does the council or anybody have any questions?
No.
Assuming we get, I do.
You got to.
Assuming we get the funding, when would the project start? Do you have a timeline in mind yet?
It would start roughly September, October of next year, with the last shoe dropping being disputed on the block grant money. That's when we would know. Then it would take us about a year to get it approved.
What's the length of the process to do this? Maybe like an end date or
An end date, if you want
I
to
mean-
look, it takes about a year for us to get the document written, go to Department of Health, they have 3 months to review it, it comes back to us, we make corrections, they get it for another 3 months.
so?
and
It
comes
could be.
back to us.
It's a little while.
It's a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's typically a little
And you said the $24,000 grant, that's from CDBG, is that right?
Correct.
So just so councilman knows or remembers, we did an income survey a couple years ago, and we qualified for the LMI, low to moderate income, but those are only good for there's a like 3-year
Timeline.
period, or every couple years they have to be changed. So right now, and we spent a couple $1,000s in doing it, so we probably want to, I mean, my suggestion is we spent the money to do for things like this. So we want to be able to get that, apply for that grant ahead of time.
So, I'm just reading, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So the loan was $34,500, and I'm just going to read, I'm sorry, I'm going to just read this. Your board approved your pre-construction application through August 2, 2019 board meeting. Approval date is also the loan date. Any eligible costs incurred from this date forward are reimbursable with the pre-construction loan. Our office just completed the underwriting for this project, and the loan interest rate is 0.4%.
0.4.
And a loan term of 5 years. In addition, you qualify to have 20% of your loan forgiven at the
Yeah, I
time
remember
of the
reading that.
project is completed. So
You must
whatever
have sent that out to
20%
us.
of 34,500 is,
So it's almost $7,000,
yeah.
because 10% would be 35,000 or 3,500.
So roughly $7,000. So that's, my numbers are a little bit off. You actually have more grant in there now as opposed to loan. So,
And I
Do
think
we yet know what we're applying for funding for?
no, we
Are we talking about building a new water tank?
don't know yet. We will let the data tell us what that looks like.
Once
Then the process will be, we will come in and say, per the nerdy engineering calculations we have done, this is what we think needs to be done. But it's your guys' system, so you guys get to decide what you want to do. We simply provide recommendations.
is it kind of similar to this, this road?
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense that we have to have the plan in place first, which,
To be able to
to be able to
identify,
identify those
yeah.
things, and then we identify
Okay.
which ones we think, and then this is the plan though, is what we're, $88,000 is to create the plan, is that,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's what the funding's gonna, this first funding round of 88,000 is just to create the plan, then to be able to go out and look at potentially other projects that we know.
And that capital improvement plan that we did would identify some of them,
That was some of
right?
that we did, yeah, last year when Steve came out, right, when we first came on, helped us get that CIP.
Yeah, and the more stuff you have like that, the less expensive the project's going to be.
And that one was, last time was updated in 1993, I think. So we had 25 years of cost figures we were trying to,
Revising, huh?
yeah. So, all
Any other
right.
questions? I'm so sorry. Okay.
But,
One question, if I may. How many water systems has your company been involved with, say, over the last 10 years or so?
I have personally been involved with, in the weeds, in 7 of the last 10 years. That doesn't count anybody else in my life. I'd have to go back and look at the resumes. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
We've written probably, I think the last count was 12 of these plans in the last 15 years, so we average about 1 a year. A little less than 1 a year.
So you know what you're doing.
I would like to think so, yes. Department of Health at times corrects me.
I'll bet.
so ideally though, in a perfect world, I mean, we got this, is we need to approve, as a council, approve it to go forward to then
Accept.
to accept this loan. But we don't have to draw on it, we would, until we get this other funding, so it's just gonna kinda sit there. Okay,
Yes. The earliest you would draw it is about a year from now, and that is the absolute earliest.
and then if, for some reason, if we don't get the other funding, we can just turn back the $34,000 to them and.
We don't have to pull.
Or, you know, we could talk with Carrie and go, listen, we didn't get the CDBG grant this year. We found out why we were deficient in our application. Can we hold it over till next year?
Okay, but there's still really, there's no detriment to us by carrying that, or,
No. As long as we don't draw on it, I don't see
Yeah.
an issue. Now,
Okay.
I would want to double check that with Carrie, but I don't see that being an issue.
So if you check it with her, then do we have to maybe send a letter of some kind, or is that something you will take care of?
No, it probably would need to come from the town. I'm just a slimy consultant to them, so.
there's that Eagle thing, or whatever, one of those other state, I don't know if it's Eagle.
Ecology Administration.
But, yeah. one of those types of, because some of the emails they sent to us said go log on to
Okay.
SAW or Eagle or Raptor or whatever else. But if, yeah, so we'll probably just need you, Steve, to help hold our hand a little
You
bit
bet.
more.
I have no problem doing that. That's not an issue. It's just any official documentation regarding your guys' loan will need to come from you guys.
Okay,
It can't come from me.
okay,
They won't acknowledge it. Or should
perfect,
they?
sure. Okay. So, council, I would just, I guess, entertain a motion to accept this grant at these terms that were just kind of laid out for us, knowing what you've heard, to go, so we can accept it and go forward, then to get these other grants in within the next year.
I'll make a motion to accept these grants and
then
move
we'll-
forward.
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember Tipton, seconded by Councilmember Luck, to accept the Department of Ecology, or I'm sorry,
CDBG.
Public Works Trust
Board, yeah, Public Works Trust Fund, loan in the amount of $34,500 with the interest rate of 0.4% on a 5-year term. Seconded by Luck.
0.4%.
0.4.
Wish
0.4.
my mortgage was that.
You always put a 0 in front of the decimal point. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, carries 4-0. Thank you, council. All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
No problem.
Always good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Travel safely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks. That was good information. I think, like I said, last meeting, we didn't kind of have all those
Yeah,
details and didn't
I
know,
agree.
and so it's good to have them come out.
So if we can turn that back regardless, 100%. Say we never got any other funding. We're just like, we don't have a reason for this. Sounds like Sounds like to where he put it that there was no,
Penalty.
No
or
strings
anything,
attached.
yeah.
I think I want to say 2 years ago, we rejected. We got a loan, some funding for something, and we rejected it. And I don't even remember I don't know if it might have been for this. I don't know
I don't remember either.
the
now.
project, but
Department of Ecology, I think it was, but I'm not sure.
but sometimes when you reject them, you kind of get looked down upon too. So like he said, if you turn it back, there's really no penalty or like they'll accept your money back. But
no.
so
I've forgotten why we rejected it. Does anybody recall?
I think it was funding. I think it was because of the funding where the loan might have been, say, $50,000, but it was going to cost us $150,000, and we didn't have any other funding sources, and the city didn't have the money to do the rest of the project, is what I recall. But I couldn't even tell you what the project was.
And it's the Public Works Council
Public Works Trust.
Trust Fund.
Yeah. There's a board, Public Works Board, and they administer the dollars for the Public Works Trust Fund. And Scott Hutzel, Lincoln County Commissioner, is the president of the Public Works Board. All right, so going forth, let's see, code compliance report and update. So in the report or email I sent you guys yesterday, effective September 1st, our code compliance coordinator, Jess Silhan, had resigned. And so I'd indicate there's about 2 months left on that in our typical 6-month budget period. And so for the remainder of the year, I don't know if my recommendation that we didn't, until we kind of got things squared away internally with getting the descriptions and things that we never really got, I don't think, 100% hammered out, just to not backfill that for the remainder of this term. We can talk about that in a second too. We did send out another series of letters, and I think all the response we got, people responded and came in and talked, whether they were working, but I think we got one yesterday or today that the person came in and said, I have till the end of the month, from my property owner, can I, we're working with them, and can we have that, basically it's 2.5 or 3 weeks. And so that was, so far it seems to be working, our letters that were sent out. We also were able to talk to Johnson Family Towing, and they're waiting for their certification from the state, Washington State Patrol, to be able to start hauling here. But Scott had called a place in Ritzville, a towing company, and asked him what we needed. So there's a few of the property that have abandoned vehicles, I guess is the best term for them. So Scott, we just need to get those documents. Did you actually, on those two up at by Lee's?
The one that the frame, the guy would like to get a Hulk slip on it.
A Hulk slip, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that, we have to provide that though, right?
Well, sheriff's office.
Sure.
They just,
Get-
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, get in touch with them.
So we have an avenue now, and I talked to Johnson Family Towing about, once they get their stuff too, the same thing, and there's really no cost to the city to have those, especially if they're abandoned. We actually had an abandoned vehicle here, I guess probably 2 weeks ago, but it was an active crime scene apparently. So, but the sheriff's department took care of that and
So it was gone.
got that all taken care of. So, so that's where we're at right now. I said in my email, I think there's still, for the remainder of the time, just if there's still complaints that come in between Bunny and Janice and maybe ourselves, we have the template that Jess and Peter and Sherry had set up. So we have those letter templates that we can use if we want to, if those come up. But I think the progress was, I think we saw measured progress this year. I think the responses that we received were positive. I mean, I don't, it wasn't, the people responded and I think it respectable. They saw we were trying to be respectful. So,
Wasn't a war zone.
knock on wood, no. But, so,
If a Hulk is towed, who ends up paying for the towing?
how I understand it is the towing company will contact the property owner or the vehicle owner and request them, if they don't pick it up after a series, like I think it's 45 days, they take it to like an auction. And then they sell it, whatever money they're owed for their storage fees, they get reimbursed for. If there's anything extra, the state patrol has a fund that they use for other things, so it's the state manages all that, so there's no cost to the city.
Can they charge for the towing from their yard to the auction as well? Is that a second fee?
It's part of their expenses, they charge for all their expenses.
So, and I think so far, I mean, what we've looked at is the vehicles we've looked at, that's not our first choice, because we have to fill out a document to give to them. So it says we've notified them, or we've made attempts to notify them, and it's been, nothing. So it's not like you can just go pull it tomorrow and have a vehicle towed without ever contacting anybody or knowing anything. So the vehicle owner would have, say, due process, if that's they would be notified whether or not they accept the certified letters that were sent to them, or they didn't listen to their voicemails if we called them or whatever. So it's not like they would be completely in the dark. But
I'd like to give credit where credit is due. I had no part in the development of the letter.
oh, okay.
To best of my knowledge, that would be Jess, and maybe Jess and Peter, I don't know.
Not I.
Okay, just
All right.
Jess.
Well, I apologize for putting additional laudatories on YouTube, but thank you, Jess, then for creating a template. And that's, I think, the whole thing from day one when Jess came and talked to us about it, even about the name, right? The Code Compliance Coordinator. It was trying to be not confrontational. It wasn't the code enforcer. So again, I think that's where trying to take those little steps like that, just sometimes they're words or just semantics. The people that we were trying to deal with, they've all, again, it was a respectful process, and they realized that somebody, either it was noticed by somebody their next door neighbor, or somebody driving through town that stopped and filed a notice. So
Thank you for getting the ball rolling on that, Jess. Appreciate
Yes, absolutely.
How many letters have we sent out so far? Total?
20, I think.
all right. So next on with nothing else on the code compliance, we'll move on to Department of Ecology wastewater treatment plant project.
Excuse me, do
Yeah.
we need to vote on whether or not to backfill or hold off?
I don't know. I'm trying to think how it was even appointed, because I guess the council approves. Well, yeah, the council can approve if they
Just
want
maybe to accept his resignation.
to accept his
Yeah.
resignation.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have a motion to accept the resignation of Jess Silhan.
So moved?
Motion by Councilmember McClellan. Is there a
Second.
second? So if everyone votes against it, then does that mean he can't resign?
it. Yeah, so I think everyone should.
All right. Motion by Councilmember McClellan, seconded by Councilmember Tipton to accept the resignation of Jess Silhan as the code compliance coordinator. Indicate by saying aye.
Discussion?
Oh, sorry.
I'm curious to know what the motivation is. If you're willing, if you're comfortable even talking about it.
I'd be glad to talk to you anytime you'd like.
During the meeting.
I would prefer not to.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Any further discussion? All right. Motion by Councilmember McClellan, second by Tipton to accept the resignation. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
All right, it passes 3-1. and accepting. Okay. And then do you want to be recorded?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Great. All right. So moving back to the Department of Ecology wastewater treatment project, very similar to what Steve Marsh was just here about. This was what Andy Tom had been working with Scott on. If you guys remember too, we have two consultants. We have a consultant for everything. Or let me back up. We have a consultant for wastewater treatment plant, and then we have a consultant for everything else.
Okay. And Andy Thomas for the wastewater.
Yeah, Andy Tom is from James A. Sewell, is who our wastewater treatment plant contractor or engineer is. And so, very similar, we have, as part of our permit for the wastewater treatment plant, we have to provide them with a some updates. The thing we just did was our O&M manual, our readings. If you guys, for the newer council members, I don't know if you, as guests, you might have remembered, but we used to put ethanol or methanol? Methanol in somewhere in the plant to try to get a number below a reading below a certain figure. Well, Andy Tom says that figure is never going to be achieved. It's impossible, and we've never achieved it to begin with. So we were putting $300 or $400 a month in methanol, potentially even in the wrong place because of the way it was designed. It might have been really pointless. So in order to prove that, we have to get a hydrogeologist report, and the Department of Ecology signed off on all that, saying that we will please do that. And so that's a cost that we have to bear regardless. The grant, or the program is $44,000 total. $22,000 of that is a grant, and $22,000 of that is a loan. That also includes a portable sampler that Andy recommended we get for Scott and those guys to be able to move around. I guess I don't know too much. Portable.
It's just a sample of different places where they put components.
It's like a handheld kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's a little tank with a refrigeration unit on it. We just plug it in where we need it, battery operated.
So I don't know if that was about $6,000. The hydrogeologist report is, I don't know, it could have been, he has the figures, I don't know if they're exactly in here, because he's got a bid from a person that's not with their group, somebody that writes these, but he said that total, the $39,000 was for our project, and then $6,000 was for the city, to administer the cost of this and stuff. So a portion of that, maybe half of that $39,000 might go to our engineer to formulate all this stuff and what they've been working on. So, but very similar, having that CDBG, that LMI status, kind of allowed us to be in the running for this stuff. So, so they've awarded it to us. It just, as a matter, it's like I said, it's half and half. So,
Who's awarded it again?
the Department of Ecology has awarded us a $22,000 grant and a $22,000 loan. If we don't accept it, we still have to pay for it ourselves out of pocket. So they're basically giving us money to help to help spend the money, I guess. So it's kind of a catch-22, but it's something that we need to, as I understand it, from ecology, not from our consultant, but from Department of Ecology, in order to keep our permit, be in compliance with our permit, that these are the things that we have to provide to them in lieu of ever hitting this number. And said part of that money, we were for I don't know how many years, but I remember there was probably at least $300 I think a month, so that's $3,600 a year, and it was for multiple years, and we haven't been doing that now for the last probably maybe 12 or 13 months probably. So there's an offset to some degree, if you will, but it still costs us.
We
Yeah.
have to provide them with information. This is with regard to the hydrogeologists, and what are they gonna sample,
They're-
aside from,
They're gonna come out and they're gonna look, so part of it has to do with when we switched from, we just, not distributed, but we used to discharge into the creek. And then at some point, they made us change that.
so
And
this is nitrates we're talking about?
Is that,
Just our treated effluent went into the creek at one point.
it has to do, remember when you were here, you talked about was it blue baby syndrome? That same conversation with the ecology is what this all deals with. It's beyond my scientific
So we have
capability
to spend $44,000 for a study so we can reduce our need for dumping methanol into the waste stream?
No, it's our compliance numbers for nitrates and ammonia and all that stuff are gonna get less stringent if we do this study.
So the study itself is maybe $12,000 or $14,000. There's also this portable sampler that is about, I think, $6,000. And then there's the other part of that. Some of that money goes to the engineer. We have a cost breakdown somewhere. I just know
Do we
they.
have a copy of that letter?
Well, I have the information here that we got from Andy Tom. I can get the exact cost figures.
I think you had in the email, didn't you?
Actually, it's right here. So on the back, so on the back, so it's $8,000 for the hydrogeologic analysis and discharge report, $2,000 for assistance for this portable composite sampler, and then facilities plan update is $29,000. So that's and then he said that the $6,000, and probably similar to what Steve said about that, if we don't spend it, we don't have to take that loan, but it's part of the, in case we had administrative costs to go through this.
Question, if I may.
Yeah.
I thought you said the sampler was 6,000. Here it shows 2,000.
And it says assistance in purchasing it, so I don't know the exact cost, but I thought before Andy, those are numbers that Andy had talked about, Andy Tom. So I don't know, and that, when I read that, it says assistance in purchasing it, so it doesn't say to full. And this QAPP is part of the, of our permit. It's and we have it's, I don't know, I think it's 20, we actually got it extended from this year. It was due this year, and they pushed it out until like September of 2020. So.
And what's the acronym you just cited? TWAP?
QAPP, QAPP. That was also it's in our permit. It has all these things, but I don't know enough about this. I just listened to the ecology person and Andy, and Andy used to work at ecology, but Andy convinced them that, what is our number at 1? Is that the number that we're shooting for 1 every time? And they said 1 is unachievable. Our numbers are like 10, and 10 is probably what reasonable is. So we would never achieve it, and that's what Andy's trying to prove to them. And they agree, but our current person that's in charge of ecology for us, she can't explain why it got switched to begin with, because it wasn't her that switched it. And
That
so
was going to be my question. How did that number one
We went
become
from
about?
a federal permit to a state permit is where it got.
when it changed from when we discharged to the,
Yeah, they cut the discharge off and we went to it. By doing the discharge, removing the discharge, we got what to qualify for a state permit, which was less stringent, better than the federal permit.
and part of this facilities plan is both when ecology was out here for their annual or quarterly inspection a month ago, they spent probably 4 hours with Scott and Keith, and there was 2 of them. They directly said to us that our system is very manually like a manual process, manual oriented, and for it should have a full-time one person. It's like, at the very least, it should be a full-time one-person job. We have, 2 people that, that are doing, 10 other things too. And so part of this facilities plan update, Andy is trying to, let me get real technical with you guys here, show them, I had to write it down because if you guys have ever talked to Andy or heard him, and Bunny can attest to it, that it's like talking a foreign language. But he wants for us to get rid of our swirling concentrators in our settling basins, which also ecology said that those are usually for wastewater, not for sewage. But the way our plant was designed, that's what they did. And
Those
so
baskets.
everyone kind of
The long pits that are out there that the swirl concentrators are like, they're the first thing they go into, and it separates some solids and stuff like that.
So he said that's like that cost is $100,000, which will be talked about in this facilities plan, which is a 100% grant by CDBG. So it's kind of the same thing. You have to kind of put this thing out there in order to go out and get other things. Again, hearing from ecology, and we've talked about it before. Ecology approved it. They accepted our plant, but they won't take any credit. They won't say, well, we approved it. We accepted what you guys did. But they're saying now is, man, you got a basket case, no pun intended type of thing in front of you. You guys have a problem, and it's only going to get worse because Scott and Keith have to lift these manhole covers that are maybe this big, and they use the back of a broken shovel, and they've welded things together, which they've done what is necessary, but luckily Keith is strong and able-bodied, because if it was myself, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. So those are all the things that, like I said, most of this is coming directly from the stuff that I hear from ecology and then from Andy. So it's kind of a necessary evil, but
And the lady at Ecology worked for the engineer that designed it.
the original engineer that designed our plant, she originally worked there.
Interesting.
And she said she remembers this thing, but she won't. Yeah, she said she didn't work on it, but
Of course
So-
you didn't.
yeah. And then I guess this would be through the end of 2020 is when this would run, like between now and the end of 2020 we would contract to get we would accept the loan and accept the grant, then we would contract, and that's already 100%. They've both been awarded.
What are the terms of the loan, as far as like an interest rate and a year and payback schedule? That kind of similar to the.
This all came over a couple weeks ago. I don't have it.
You keep going.
Well, let's keep this open then. We won't
Okay.
do anything yet, and we'll keep going down the line, and I'll look for this right now. Is that okay? So I can try to get that.
Yep.
Okay. So next then on the list is City Bulletin Board update from Councilmember Tipton.
Okay, so what I've been able to pull offline is from what I understand, we are looking for something like this. You can get them in different sizes.
Right.
The one that we have right here is kind of a fixed size already because the posts are already in the ground. It's 48 inches. So it's got some specs on it. It says behind what it's made of. It's locking glass, the cork board. They range from $550 up to around $700 from what I can find.
So this price on this page is what we would need to spend?
That's without shipping.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to put all the effort into the exact amounts with all this until I hear from the city that this is what we want to switch it to.
Okay.
Then we would just have to figure out exactly what it's going to cost, because a lot of the stuff is just looking at it online. I've called the Spokane their Parks and Rec, a couple other cities. A lot of these have just been made by people over 20 years and they're old, and then they replace them with something like this. So if this is basically what is there,
Yeah.
if we want to go with that, that's just what a new one costs. And they range in size and pricing. The one that I've been looking at is similar, that would fit into that one. It's 48 inches across and it's like 42 inches tall or 39 inches tall. There's a cut sheet on one of these.
And this is
This
to be
one right
posted
here.
where, Tim?
What's that?
This is to be posted where? Outside here?
So we're talking about replacing that, the one that says Harrington News, the kiosk. Because the chamber has, we've made a motion and got it approved to, underneath that kiosk, to put little brochure holders that have lids on them that we can put like a little kiosk center to highlight stuff going on in this area. That's how this whole thing came about, of possibly replacing that one, having someone build it. So what does the city want to do for that?
How much more does a double-sided,
Double-sided
What does
is,
the board cost?
they're about $800 for a double-sided one.
and what are they made of?
It's it's a recycled plastic. They're not supposed to need painted. If they get graffiti on them, it's really easy to clean. It says what they're made out of in the specs. So they're not supposed to fade. The glass isn't supposed to fade. It's not supposed to yellow.
Is it glass or plastic, do
It's
you know?
that, what is it? What do they call it? Yeah, it's a plexiglass.
And it looks like the frame is polyethylene.
Yeah. So those would just go right onto the posts that are there. So, I mean, is that what the city is looking to
I
replace
like
it
what
with?
that is. I think it's pretty spendy, to be honest with you. For
So my thought was, if that's what we want to go with, then to try, maybe talk like to the school or some of these other places that are close, where do they get those things from? There's gotta be somewhere local that you can get them from. But it's hard to find that by typing in Spokane. With it, you don't get any luck with that. They show the top results, and they're like Kansas or New Mexico, and they ship them here.
yeah,
And what's wrong with our present system, present board? Is it just old?
The
and
glass
faded?
sucks on it. When you try to roll it, it doesn't lock, first of all. When you try to roll the glass, it falls off of the track. I mean, we've talked about this at a couple of meetings, that people feel that it should be replaced. Whether that's hiring someone out to build one and make one, or we just get something like that and maybe our city guys put it together, or some volunteers. But until we know that, I don't want to spend time until, it's a waste of time to do that. I'm not going to do that until we know what we want to do.
And what's the size of this one relative to the one
the
we
same
have?
size.
Same size.
Same size. You can get them smaller. You can get them like 33 inches, but those posts are in the ground.
Might
It's
as well.
treated, that's a lot of work to make that fit in there. And
You'd spend
so
that
I've been
amount of
looking at
money
4-foot size ones.
Repositioning the
Correct.
posts isn't expensive.
Right.
I would move that the mayor be authorized to purchase a new, what are they called, bulletin board, sliding board, cork board? Do we need a motion even for this?
I think so, but real quick, so, and this originally came up because we wanted to put, the chamber wanted to come up with the bottom thing, but
That's how it came
but
up.
it didn't fit on that?
No, the things that you just buy, we need backing on the lower portion of it because they're wall mounted. So how that is, what the chamber has approved to purchase, it doesn't require that being switched. But in that discussion, it came up
That we should,
that
if we're
we
gonna-
should replace it.
Can that be fixed so that it would roll, Scott?
Well, I think we can find, I'd have to research it, but I think we can find a roller bearing.
But that'd be
slide
cheaper
deal
than
that
$600 or
attaches to
$700.
glass
And like, so that you could lock it possibly.
and lock it,
Maybe we table this and see what Scott can find during the course of the next
I think we
month,
should.
and then bring it back to next month.
So kind of tied into this is we have kind of the same situation for the reader board up at the cemetery. Because Levi's kind of handling that. Him and I have been communicating about it, but I've looked at that. It's kind of the same thing. You have these fixed posts which it's bigger than what these are. It's about 56 inches, and it has a roof over it, and those are fully enclosed. It doesn't have sliding glass. So I've called the city of Richville, talked to their cemetery, and the Tresco people that we get the engraving and they do the headstones. They all say the same thing. You buy something like this, or you have someone make one of those, and then what they have done is, like for the map, and they just laminate a new map all printed out nicely, and they stick it on there, and then you have something like this, one that is not, you couldn't slide the glass back and forth specifically for the cemetery. It's kind of the same. It's the same thing. You can't just type in cemetery reader board and nothing comes up for that. And even a cemetery place, they said no, that was made 20 years ago by somebody.
All right, well, that's a separate line item here.
Yeah.
So let's just, on this one first, to say, do we want to table this until the next meeting and see what Scott can find out and then make a decision?
I think we should
Yes.
see if this one could be fixed just as well back into perfect working order before we spend the money to buy a brand new one.
And I initiated a motion, I'll withdraw that motion. I don't think I completed it, but just to be technically correct, I'll withdraw it.
Okay, thank you.
'Cause this one is in good condition besides the glass, the glass and track portion. And I forget who it says it was made by, but it says the year on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, Bunny?
Real quick, so we were going to talk, Tim started talking about the cemetery, but in the interest of time, I wanted to see our treasurer, Michael Cronrath, is here tonight, and he was going to talk. We had it at the bottom, but since he's already here, and I don't want to save it the best for last, so we'll save the best for now. So move that around.
Funny. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, the only reason I'm here tonight is I'm hoping that I can urge you to approve a resolution that will be before you to have us join the local government investment pool. It's basically the state investment pool. It is operated by the state treasurer's office. 530 local government entities are members of it, including all cities over 10,000 in population. 230 other cities, 30 community colleges, universities, state agencies. So it is heavily invested, heavily used. Currently it runs anywhere from between 10 and 16 billion dollars that are invested in the local government investment pool in the state. So it is a huge fund. It is set up in essence to be very safe. It is designed for liquidity so that if we invest in it, we can immediately get our funds back out on a same-day basis. Whereas if we are tied up in a CD or in a U.S. bond obviously for numbers of years, a CD is a number of months or years, we do not have access to those funds. With the local government investment pool operated by the state, we just simply we can give them a call and they electronically transfer the money right back into our checking account. The only limitation is we cannot transfer more than $10 million in one day. They do require a 24-hour waiting period for that. But
That does it.
but for us, I think we'll be okay. Even the counties are involved in it as well. So it is a huge investment pool that is really designed really to follow the rules of a money market account. Its interest is slightly higher than the 2% that was offered by the CD that we had at U.S. Bank. Right now their daily rate is about 2.2%, figured as an annual rate, because they have to provide daily rates, weekly rates, monthly rates, because it is liquid. People will have, the cities, different municipalities will have their money in there for a very brief time, and they've got to be able to calculate an instantaneous interest rate for them and give them interest on their invested money. So I'm asking that you would push forward and approve the resolution tonight so that we can do that. There's some paperwork that we need to fill out, but that was the first requirement by the state to allow us to join. Eventually, what I'd like to see the city do, we had just a CD that just came mature. It has been cashed out. We've had that thing since, let me get the date off of that. Essentially, it sat there, was a $24,000 CD that sat there. My records go back to 1998. And in 1998, it was paying roughly $250 quarterly, and our last quarterly payment was $3.06. So you can see how the interest rates have changed over the last 20 years, and you know, $3 of interest is just not really worth it. So I'd like to see that money be transferred into the investment pool. I'd like to move our money market account into the investment pool, and I would eventually like to see us move our bonds and any other investments that we have into that safe and very liquid account. Obviously, some of those things we can't touch. Other ones need to be liquid, like our current money market account. It should be liquid. That account in and of itself, again, we pay a maintenance fee, I believe, of $5 a month,
10.
and we the regular checking account is a $10 a month maintenance fee. The money market is a $5 a month maintenance fee, and we get about $1 to $2 in interest. So, I mean, over a large amount of money that's in the money market, it's going to take forever to get rid of it, but we're essentially just throwing money away. I'd rather see us get some interest out of it and not have those kinds of fees. So that's why I'm here tonight, is to let you know that I'd like to see us move in that direction. We've been talking, Bunny and I and the mayor have been talking for a while about we need to do something with our investments.
I think too, which is important, is there used to be an investment, not say club, but
Pool.
an investment
Committee.
committee within the city, which consisted of the treasurer, the clerk, and former Mayor Paul Gilland, or a former treasurer. I don't know if it was not obviously Councilmember Cronrath, but the treasurer position. And so they spent a lot of time managing that and making it work. And for the last, at least say 4 years, that for sure hasn't happened. And just with different changes, I think this is probably a better way to go. That way it's more self-managed or less, just less of a process, and still is safe and
It's through the state treasurer, and I would rather have them handle their investments and pay us interest than try and do those investments myself. Former Mayor Gilland, that was a skill of his and a joy that he really enjoyed, tinkering around and finding. He would tweak out 0.1% of interest somewhere and get the city a little bit more money, but it was very, very, very time intensive, and I just don't feel like I am capable of doing that kind of thing. And I just don't like to see the money locked up. The liquidity is really what excites me about this, is that we can get at it if we need it.
Question, a bunch of questions, actually. Thanks very much, Mr. Cronrath, for calling this to our attention. The first issue I have is the issue of safety. In the event of a financial panic, and there will be one in our future, I'm sure, what is the relationship between the state's interest in that money and the city's interest in that money? Have you read the small print on it, for example?
I have not.
Okay. This is the first I've ever heard of this investment fund. How long has it been in existence? Do you know?
Let's see. Started in 1986.
Okay.
We've been doing this for a while.
Has anybody gone to the bank with this proposal, with this
And see if they'll offer us a
plan? And
competitive rate?
they have all the power in the world to adjust their CD rates on an individual basis. I mean, I like the idea of having our money local, and I like the idea of not having our funds in the hands of the state without very specific limitations on what the state can do with
I'll
it.
be very honest with you, Peter. If you invest in a CD with U.S. Bank, your money is not local.
Well, you
That is a
have
giant corporation.
you have the
It is-
benefit of FDIC, and
You also have the benefit of the state treasurer's office.
I think I'd trust the FDIC before I'd trust the
You
state
trust
treasurer's
the
office.
feds before you trust the state?
Yeah.
I'd put them on an even playing field if you ask me.
the other thing though, real quick, this is a trust fund, and trust funds are very, they're federally regulated to where you can mix and match money. So this trust fund is specific, that it can't be intermingled with the state's daily sweep of their budget, their general budget. And there's some law here it talks about, but it says they created a trust fund to be known as this. So just knowing, I work at a bank, and I don't work in the trust department, but I know trusts are very specific, and they're the legal parameters around them are very specific. So what Councilman Davenport's referring to can't happen, to where they can just take our money because it's in some account. The other thing, though, too, is you said they're professional money managers. They're professional investment people, where maybe former Mayor Gilland also was a semi-professional or professional investment person, but we don't have that ability anymore. You know, we don't have that. I'm definitely not that. Councilman O'Connor said he doesn't, either he is not or doesn't also have the time. And our beloved clerk, I don't know, how much she still wants to pick stocks on a daily basis. So, but from a safety and soundness, I think the backing of this, where this is at, and it's held in, a bank as well. And talking about the liquidity of it, that's a big thing. And so, if the treasurer's researched the liquidity aspects, and that wasn't what important to him, I'm supportive of those things.
Have you been able to speak with anyone? Does the school have anything in this same account, or anyone else that uses?
I don't think so.
Okay.
How long have we known about this fund?
We've known for, I would say, a couple of years. It was something we looked at a while ago, but we kept kind of looking at CDs, and then it just kind of always kept falling onto the back burner, and we made it a goal then this summer that we were going to try and talk about this, Danny and I and the mayor, that was one of the things we wanted to accomplish when school was out, was that we would have a discussion as to what we were going to do with our investments, rather than just having them sit. We knew the CD was coming to maturity. We knew, it kind of surprised me that one of our bonds just came to maturity. So we need to have a place to go, and I really think that the state investment pool, the local government investment pool, is a place to go.
Have we talked to our bank about it at all yet?
I have not gone down and talked with the bank as far as if they would offer us a better rate on their CD. I know they just simply offer their rates, and so that's what I have gone by and decided that the liquidity is really the really important point to me, because I'm not just worried, Peter, about just our current investments being in the pool. I would like to see us take some of our cash that we hold in a money market account that just is sit there slowly disappearing over the next 180,000 months, but it is slowly disappearing. It is not money that is used. We put it in that money market account because money markets used to pay good interest. They do not anymore, so it just sits there. But we want it liquid, so I would like to see it put in a pool so that we can then get at it should we need to.
I will also say, I think the former treasurer, Cronrath, went down to the bank last summer, right? Or she worked with you on that, and one, it wasn't very promising to begin with, whatever the response was, and the response itself might have taken 2 or 3 months because they don't have anybody here that could help us. And then the person that called us, I think, even told us maybe that either we didn't have quite enough to really be important to them,
Or to put it in U.S. Treasuries, they weren't even interested in talking to us about that, and that was where the most interest was that we could get. We had an investment person with the bank in Spokane, and they just kind of abolished those jobs. I don't know. We don't hear anything from her anymore.
So there was an attempt last year, I do remember, to look into some of this too, but it didn't, and I think then especially, and then we had a change in treasurer, so that kind of juggled things, and then when Treasurer Cronrath came on this summer, I think it's just something they'd known about before, either as a council member or from the previous conversations, to make it a goal this summer to do that. So,
has the city talked to any other cities that are invested in this or who participate in this program?
I haven't felt the need, but I can if you really want.
I think it would be useful to make a phone call or two.
To what end?
Just to
like
see
it or
what
not like it? What kind of question would you have me ask them?
just whether they're satisfied with the system. I think I'd like to know if they're satisfied, or if they've had any difficulties with it, how it compares to the interest rates they can get from their local bank, and so on.
All right, I will do that.
I'd just like to know a little more. This is a major step for the city of Harrington, in my opinion.
Maybe Peter,
I would-
maybe you would like to call them and you have the questions to ask.
Sure. I'd be happy to go to the bank if I'm authorized to talk to them.
You are. I think that's fine to go do that. I'll just put it out there, that the treasurer, I think the treasurer put some time and effort into getting this to us, and he is an elected, well, now he's appointed, but it's an elected position that he's running for as well. I trust his judgment, and so he's asked us to make a resolution. So hearing dissent or potential dissent for lack of maybe some of those that information, but entertain a motion if someone wants to accept that we move forward right now.
Another question, if I may.
Yeah.
How much money do we have in aggregate that is subject to investing?
The money market, the current money market balance, and again, I apologize for not having a treasurer's report in front of you so you could look at that. Specifically, there were some problems with receipts that I wanted to go over. I've been looking at them the last couple of days, and so I want to fix that before you see it. I'll bring that to you. But to answer your question, the money market currently sits at about $183,000. The CD that just cashed out was $24,000, so you're looking at $207,000, plus a U.S. bond that just cashed out at $15,000, plus its interest at another $6,000. So
$228,000.
yeah, so we're looking at about $228,000 that I would like to move into that investment.
Mm-hmm.
Plus that endowment fund maybe at the cemetery.
Yeah, that is another option. My concerns about those, and I'd like to spend more time before we move those kinds of funds over, talking to the mayor and the clerk, is making sure that we have some safeguards in place, because those monies generally are not to be spent. So if they were to come back into our checking account, that liquidity is a little bit of a scary thing. We want to make sure that they're a little bit better secured. So
Side note, where's the cemetery money at now?
it is tied up in bonds. Is that right?
I think most of it's in cash. I think
it in the money market?
95,000 of it is it 95,000 that is cash and the rest of it, no, bonds and the others cash, the 400,000.
Sorry, I got sidetracked. I was just curious.
So some of it we can't really do much with yet because it is locked up in bonds. Other parts of it are cash. So again, I just want to secure the funds, and since that's in essence their number one purpose, they talk about their whole their objectives in priority order are safety of principle. To secure our money and make sure that it is safe, and then provide good quality, fair, competitive interest rates.
And being good stewards of our money.
Rather than just having it sit for another month and not gaining any interest, I would like to see it at least move in there. And again, it is 100% liquid, so if you decide you want to go somewhere else next month and someone has all their questions answered, we can pull it right back out again. But there's just no point in letting it sit, and I do not like the idea of it sitting in our current checking account where it is much more accessible.
Who determines the interest rate that they give to small cities, do you know, or to
They give to
investors?
everyone. The entire pool has the same interest rates. That's again, they just watch the federal rate, and then they divide out I don't know who actually specifically, I don't know if it's the treasurer or who it does that specifies the rate.
And do we know where they invest
I'm not
the
a banker.
funds?
I don't know where they get those numbers. All I know is what the percentage that they quote me that I can get off of the site.
Do they in turn invest the funds put on deposit with them?
Yes,
And is there a board that does that, do you know?
that would be a state board, yes.
That's what I was going to ask, is who administers the,
It's all administered through the state treasurer's office, so they would fall under his purview. Or her purview, sorry.
So in our packets, we have a resolution here. If anyone wants to make the motion now, I'll entertain that or not.
considering how liquid it is, I so move.
Second.
So a motion by Councilmember McClellan, seconded by Councilmember,
And I don't know if you have a resolution number.
Let's say 215 was the other one.
Yeah, we just used 15.
216 is this one.
216?
Yes.
Okay. Tipton was the second. All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember McClellan, seconded by Councilmember Tipton, for the resolution authorizing investment of, resolution number 216. Is that right? 216, authorizing the investment of City of Harrington monies in the local government investment pool, which is created by the Washington State Legislature, and it's known as the local government investment pool. Indicate by saying, so motion, second, discussion.
And again, just let me reiterate in your discussion that it is, the liquidity is what I'm after. And the nice part about it is that if a better investment comes along, should we get a CD that all of a sudden promises us 5%, we can pull the money out and invest it in a single day.
Any penalties for pulling money?
No.
Is there any limitation on the number of transactions that can be conducted from one account?
If I remember correctly, they don't want you doing more than like 2 or 3 a day. And again, anything over 10
Over
million,
10.
you have to have 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
Should that
Well-
ever be an issue for us? I'm so, I
When
don't know.
When we get to that-
if you decide that you just want to go ahead and release all of your valuable assets to the city, then we might be able to do that.
The $9.75 million to get us over 10.
Yeah, no,
I
that's-
personally don't know very little. I personally know very little about this stuff, but I think the 3 people that have been included in this decision, I'm well okay with trusting.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I
feel it catches the council a little cold, but in light of your presentation and what you've said about it, I think it has my support.
Okay,
So the presentation's at 10.
I haven't go that far.
all right.
Only if that's just in weight.
So
9.5, you didn't have presentation materials.
without any, or if there's no other further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you, council. Thank you, treasurer.
Thank you.
And again, the mayor has indicated he'd like me to come next month, and I'm more than happy to do that. Kind of towards the front if you would, and we'll
The bottom.
You're going right back down there.
No, sure. Yeah, the stuff you talk about is really, by the time we get to the end of the meeting, usually it's dreary eyes and,
It's- yeah.
Little
Oh,
miscomment.
So we'll make sure we get
your.
your-
Watch Levi fall asleep more than a few times.
yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, council.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. So we'll switch back real quick to the cemetery. There was 3 things on here: niche, section markers, and the third thing was the reader board. Couple of things. Councilmember Shank is not here, but the niche has been ordered. Is that correct?
I haven't sent the money.
We haven't sent the money yet, but that person,
Yeah.
Wilbert. Is that-
Wilbert Vault.
Wilbert Vault, we've talked to them and we have the invoice and we're working on that now. The section markers, Scott, how are those? Are they powder coated?
I haven't had a chance to do anything with them, but I've got to take them all apart and then label them, and then we're going to take them up and get them sandblasted and painted.
You have 17 days, right, before Fall Festival?
I don't think it'll happen that quick.
Okay. And then finally, we had an email last night from Councilmember Shank about the reader board, which kind of Councilmember Tipton was just telling us about too. That one I think is a little different, though. The problems that we have, partly because of the plexiglass or glass there is
The biggest thing is how the names can go on there and how they can change on a yearly basis. See, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, because I asked this Richville Cemetery the same thing, and they try to keep it as updated as possible. And it said it can't be perfect all the time,
No.
but that's one of the things they struggle with is.
And once a year at Memorial Time, we retype a whole list of the people that have passed on within the year. But after several years, then they need to be incorporated into the big picture.
Yeah, the big map.
And that would be, now Levi did mention that he had contacted somebody at that Jewish.
Mount
cemetery.
Nebo.
Yeah. And what, they said something
He
about.
said they hadn't got back, as of last night of his email, they hadn't gotten back to him yet.
But the other people that he
Well-
talked to said that basically what we have is what they use.
Yeah.
Um,
What did you,
I
on the
have an
cutting edge
email.
or something?
Yeah. But I think the biggest problem right now is part of the problem is the glass as well, because it's
Really?
been, our water's really hard
Water
here,
spot,
so, because of the sun and this, how the water hits it, or has hit it, is kind of challenging. And then also, but even the system we have right now, isn't it, did you show me that one time where, is it like you plug the little name, like it's almost like the little felt thing where you plug
Oh,
the
right.
the character, the little plastic names in there, and so, but it's the cemetery thing. It's amazing how many people comment on everything about the cemetery. Like that's whether it's from the letters we send out to the way the grounds are kept. It's kind of like on the outskirts of town, but it's still, I mean, people, when I hear it from the cemetery, or I mean from the coffee shop, I'll come in here, and it's really important. So we have money in that account, and we want to try to do, we want to be in front of it, and whatever it is, but to try to keep up with that.
I think at one point, Paul had taken all the names and put them into his computer. And so he would periodically then reprint and insert. I don't know if that program is still on
the
his
lower
computer.
portion you're talking, yeah.
Yeah, where the names go
Yeah.
in. Yeah, and then he would, at the end of maybe 3 or 4 years, he would take all the names that we had generated that had passed away and put them into that computer. He could move those names around and put them where he needed to. That was a project he was going to finish, but he didn't do that.
Yeah, Ritzville, I spoke with them yesterday, and they said their public works and the office people, they just do it. They update it, and then they send it over to the public work guys, and they take the map and update it, and they get it laminated. And they said that theirs probably needs to be replaced also, the actual housing for it.
Right.
Well, in that project, so 40 years ago this year, and I only know that because it's the class reunion of the ladies that made it. They were high school seniors, and it was their senior project. Amy Philadelphia, I think, yeah.
Amy Sewell.
Or Amy Sewell. No, Amy Philadelphia. She's coming back for her 40th anniversary, or 40th reunion, and so...
And Wendy Kramer was the other one.
Oh, the other one.
Yeah.
So they, so that one before was built, but I don't know that we, either the capacity to do it, but I think, and that's actually that's how it kind of got started too, as that person said, hey, I just was up there, and, it's funny because 39 years ago, I built that thing, and it's looking kind of tired. What do you guys, is there anything you guys are thinking about it?
The glass looks bad.
But I don't think we have the capacity or resources to build a new one like that. So maybe it's something like that. Council members Schenk and Tipton have been, found that's the avenue we go. And then, the hardest part I think will be getting those names. We can ask maybe Mike or Lorraine if they can go look at Paul's computer if there's anything there. But it's maybe even getting a high school student. That they have typing classes. My daughter's in one of them, so they can do that as a class project or something. Community service, all those kids need community service hours. Once we get it into that system, and then have the office staff here, manage it, because once that's the bulk of the work is getting them all in there, and then once it's there, then we have the program here, or it's on a thumb drive, and then we can update it. But there's really two different problems, though. There's the actual structure that I think needs to be fixed.
Can the structure be revamped? Like, is it similar? I haven't looked at it recently. Or is it so far gone that it needs to be?
I would say the structure, the roof, and the posts and everything are pretty good. The actual housing thing, it's kind of like an aluminum material, but the glass is what's bad on it. It's all
I'll
water
look at it.
spotted.
I've looked at this one, but I haven't.
So
had a
I would
chance to
say
take
the
it.
housing part would need attention. Maybe not the roof, and it doesn't look terrible.
Okay.
I don't know how, if you can get part of that by itself, but again, I think the city's resources, like mostly the time to do it, is what we don't have. I mean, we don't have that capacity to do that. Scott and Keith are able-bodied and can do it, they know, I mean, but I don't know that so, again, from the cemetery standpoint, that cemetery we get donations every year, and people, so there is money in that account for purposes just like this. Same with the niche that we're paying and the markers that we're doing. So,
Would you guys suggest then replacing that? I mean, I understand you're talking about the name and stuff, but the part that Tim said that's in pretty rough shape, just recommend replacing either that and or the whole entire structure. I mean, the roof and everything, and just put something completely brand new up there.
It's got some pretty good-sized posts those are fixed in concrete foundation.
It's in about an 8x8 concrete patio.
So those posts
You
are,
walk up and stand.
Like 4x4s, just wood.
no, they're round metal posts.
They're metal posts.
Yeah.
Okay.
They welded it all together and then they bolted the reader board inside of it. And it's got an old shake roof on it, which it needs some.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I need to go look at it. Is what I need to do.
I almost think we could get some sort of safety glass to put in there that we could actually clean.
It's non-marking, non-marring.
Yeah, because the one side that gets a lot of sunlight and the chalky is even turned yellow.
Yeah.
And it's turned the card, the name things
On the
turned
side, yeah.
yellow too.
well, do you want to maybe one of this, I guess, table this one too until we can, for the next meeting, and try to get, if anyone else wants to go up there and look at it to see it, just so they can get a better idea. And then if we either can work on just the piece that goes in the middle that can be then attached to those posts.
Would it hurt to, in between that time, going back to the bulletin board thing, when we started talking about one possibly at the park, and I showed Steven Sainsbury, the one we have here, he said he could build something like that. We never got any discussion to where he just wanted to know what the city would want. He could, I'm pretty sure if I met up there with him and showed him, we want something like this, to maybe get some pricing from him, as someone that's
Sure.
local. I mean,
For sure.
I don't see why he wouldn't be open to it.
I don't know if he can build the.
I don't
The
know.
metal fabrication, I know he has no problem, but it's that box thing too with the slider and.
But if he has something to go off of there, maybe, I don't, if he's
Yeah.
ordering stuff online and he fabricates it in a way, it's worth it to at least
Ask him.
see if he could even come up with an idea for it. or
Especially now, he
pricing.
lives in the city limits of Harrington, so he is a citizen, so,
Yep.
more so, keep our money where,
So I can ask
yeah,
him.
for sure. But maybe if the council, if you guys, between now and next council meeting, can go up there and just look at it, just so you have a better idea, so we can do that. Okay, good. All right. So, we haven't ever done this before, but I can sense, since it's dark outside, people are kind of tired, so I thought maybe we could take like a 6-minute break, so we could stand up and just, stretch and just stretch our legs, and we'll come back at 8:45, just so we can,
Intermission.
Good idea.
yeah, quick intermission.
7th inning stretch. As my body pops.
You might not be able to get back down, huh?
I moved earlier. I had my legs stretched out, and then I scooted up to the table, and both my knees went.
Well,
Did you get our other visitor too? Right here?
yes,
Okay.
Brent,
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
I did.
Blaine said Omar made this. Me and Ted, we thought that when I worked for you. We just do some on the top or something. We did the board, the reader board. We didn't do anything on that.
Hopefully that's okay, right? Madam Clerk. All right, it reconvene here at 8:45. All right, next on our list here, hopefully a lot of these too are just going to be quick updates, but we'll be able to get through them. MKB lawn care proposal. So I mentioned yesterday in an email, we got a proposal for next year. This is really now just for information because as we go through our budget process, we'll have to consider that more. Just a heads up that the cost increase for next year is 64%, from $18,500 plus tax to, or $18,000 plus tax to $29,500 plus tax. And Councilmember Tipton talked to him, and part of it was the cost of labor, minimum wage going up next year. So we're going to have a big decision to make when we start doing our budget process. Probably mean looking at some more lawnmower / lawn tractor type options, and kind of waiting what we did last year. Because if it's affecting him, it'll also affect us, because we'd have to hire that wage. And you know, I mentioned the cemetery. Everyone that's come through town, I've heard it more than I can count on both hands and both feet about how great the cemetery and parks look, because it gets cut. You know, one day it's just, but there's like 5 guys here for 8 hours. And it's the fact that even our own maintenance crew hasn't had to deal with daily broken lawnmower, or you know, managing that extra person in the summer. So just something to think about. It's a big jump.
Had a gentleman come through from San Diego the other day, always donates. He went up first to look, and he came back and just raved about how it looked. Wrote us a check for $5,000.
Wow.
Wrote us a check for $5,000? Whoa.
Nice.
Do you know this year, off the top of your head, any rough idea of what since we sent out the letter and stuff, what kind of donations?
Probably around 10, 12,000.
Including that $5,000?
Nope.
Oh.
Well,
And
But that's, you know, people really are, I'm seeing a trend that is kind of not as good as it used to be because of the generation. But, you know, we have a lot of people from the East Coast that have relatives out here in the Midwest, and they very faithful, very faithful.
And most of our donors
We
are
don't-
buried up there.
Most of the donors are buried? Yeah.
Yeah, we don't use any city money. We don't, you know, up there at all. And that's one of the things somebody said, oh, you should be in a cemetery district. Yeah, not. I mean, those are junior taxing districts, and if they're short of tax money, guess who they
Oh, yeah.
short?
Yeah.
So you don't want to ever put it in that's why we have the endowment fund.
Scott, what's your thought on what you've seen versus from you guys doing it to them doing it? Any quarrels or good jobs?
They're gonna be way faster than we are.
Yeah.
But 20,000, that's a lot of money.
But I mean, just as far as what like it looks like, or
It looks
I mean, you've been
good.
happy with.
There's a few
what
things
happened?
that I'm not happy with. They've wiped out quite a few sprinklers that we're not as conscientious about that.
Right.
You know, he's trying to save money and go.
Right, where you guys
But
maybe.
they do pretty good work. You know, we have to go up, pick up sticks every now and then, and there's some things that they don't trim that we would normally trim.
Okay.
What about just from the maintenance aspect of it, like, say,
It's been great not to have to worry about mowing it, but it's also, there's some things that we've neglected because we aren't up there every day looking at it. You know, there's a few tree things that we need to do.
Things you might not notice quite as
Yeah.
quick.
okay.
One thing I'd like to add, that talking with him, that he said he severely underbid the job first year, you know, not knowing unforeseen things, equipment breaking, blades. He just wanted to throw that out there. And if we were to go with him, he is open to signing up to a 3-year contract to where the prices would not be raised. So he realizes it's a big jump from 1 year to the next, but when you add up the stuff of why he's raising it, it starts to add up. So
I think 2020 is the last year of the minimum wage increase too. That's automatic.
Yeah,
that's
what
that
he
step
said.
up. So at least he knows labor isn't going to potentially change
change.
that much. But
what's it going to next year?
another 50 cents, like 13 or 13.50, or it's a big number.
I don't think he's
And-
paying his people minimum wage either.
Paying them more.
You wouldn't be able to keep people doing that job at minimum wage.
Yeah, I think he just mentioned the labor was one of the minimum wage was going up. So we, on the other hand, do pay that position minimum wage. which was one of the things this year, the big jump from last year to this year, that increase, and will also then go into effect next year as well. So, part of it in here, just putting it out there because we just got it. But for our budget stuff, it's going to be that'll be a big thing again, and we'll try to analyze it that
Yeah,
way.
I reached out to him to say, can you get me something for the next meeting because we're going into budget season. So he threw that together so that we could mull it over, I guess.
Question, if I may.
Yeah.
Going back to the opening statements on this issue, did you say they're proposing an increase from 18,000 to 29,000?
500, correct.
29.5.
It's 64%. Yeah, no, it's right. It's $11,500.
I knew he was underbid when he did it, and he said he could do, him and another guy come up there and mow this thing in 2 hours. And he spent 8 hours a day every time he's coming down.
He said he didn't realize how much work the cemetery actually was. The park is not, that's not it's the cemetery it's a lot of work, a lot of
Got
edging.
to do a lot of driving and a lot of turning.
Yeah, but crazy thing, like the clerk just mentioned, somebody comes in and donates $5,000, that's something we can't count on every year, and that thing fluctuates, but again, stuff for us to consider. So, all right, I'm going to try to buzz through some of these real quick, so I'll just bounce around. The Bias Financial Software update, I talked to them last week, and then Janice and I had a call with them today. Janice is going to go there next, at the end of this month or the first week of October, and they're going to start with utility billing and see how that works, propose some of those things, and then they kind of had a schedule that we might try to do payroll in December of this year for that month. He knew that budget season was coming up, so I'm going to send him our budget from last year in Excel, and they're going to put that into whatever they do with the bars code, so that maybe can help us. He's not sure 100% yet. And then that's part of the budget. And then the other receipting, the cash receipting. He said, we can start trying to implement that a little bit, and then we can print off daily reports with revenue codes that then we can log into our existing ledgers that we have. So far so good. It's just kind of getting started, like a kickoff essentially. That's what I think today's call was. But so that was, like I said, I came over here, and Janice and I on a speakerphone for about 30 or 40 minutes. So good stuff there. The GIS Mapping Consortium, Nathan and I have been talking to those folks, and we've got that underway as well. They're trying now, I think today they said they're looking for 3 days for Scott to come out and do field work. They initially proposed the week of Fall Festival, and I said that's just out of the question. But they want to get over here sooner than later because of the weather. And so we budgeted $10,000 for that. They kind of have a layout for how that would work, and I also told them that I signed us up through the
EDC.
Yeah, the EDC had that regionalization
Yeah.
deal. One of the things that came out of that was Eastern Washington University has a student program that's looking at mapping water lines, and so for free. And so us and Elmira signed up, and so I said we would be interested in hearing more. And so then I also told that to the GIS folks. I said, hey, right now we have about 1% of our stuff on a zip drive or electronic. Like 20%'s on maps, and the rest of it's in Scott's Head. It might switch if we get the water lines, if it, that we can coordinate. So we're looking to. That just kind of popped up, I think, late last week. That thing from the EDC. But so that's also just, I say, moving along at the early stages. So knock those two out.
So we don't have any maps at all of our infrastructure.
Well, I said about 20%, but what we have up there in the front, and then there's some maps in the back by Paul's.
But I mean, Scott doesn't have any that he's done.
Yeah, I've got a map that I've been doing over the years. It hasn't been, I haven't seen it for a while, so I have to figure out where it's at. But in fact, I think Maybe Paul ended up with that. I hope he didn't.
So some of the maps we have, I mean, we have the one that's kind of covered in plastic up
Yeah, I
here
know.
that has some water, like, previous water and current water, and the current water was like 2002, or, I mean, so we have some things, and so what it's gonna do, we told them the level we wanted is really for our purposes. Like, you can put it on the web, the interwebs, out there, so the public can look at things. We're not gonna have that capability, or we don't want that at this point. We just wanna be able to have it, so if somebody comes in, we don't have to call Scott in Iowa, and he can, on a cell phone, and he can get somebody within, 2 inches. It's cool, but it's also scary, so, so,
Question?
yeah.
Some of this information may be in the hands of Avista. Have we been to them? It was just last year they installed new gas lines, and they did a lot of that ground penetrating radar to find this information.
They're aware. I told them that Avista did our gas line, so they're going to come out also and do it's called a rapid assessment as part of this, and I've already talked to them and told them about Avista. I know Keith and Scott, I don't know what Scott said too, but Keith said that Avista, with the stuff that they had problems because of our streets are so, I'd say, dense, if you will, if that's right, like with the basalt, that they had a lot of problems identifying with the equipment they had. And so these folks asked too, like, hey, do you think we should just use our regular stuff or our maximum stuff? And I said, you probably want to bring both.
Cadillac.
because I know there's some areas that are so dense that you can't, Avista had problems finding it, and that's what Keith kind of laughed about it. I mean, that even whatever they did. So, but yes, I think again, using,
How they found everything that they wanted to find was they potholed it. If I put a blue mark on the ground, they would pothole that and physically look at the pipe. But they never kept a record of that. You know what I'm saying?
did we?
Plan ahead.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I showed them where the pipes were. I know where they are.
And that's why they want Scott to be available for like those 3 days, because
Why don't we have those marked on a map somewhere, if he knows where they're at?
that's what I just asked. He said he didn't mark them down.
You were supposed to do that 10 years ago, Scotty.
We have a map that we were drawing on. Like I said, I hope I still got it. But and I brought it down and showed it to Paul, and he said, "Well, that's not there, and this is not there, and this is stuff that I know is there." And he just, because he had us looking for stuff that wasn't there.
So,
But
in an effort to try to consolidate all that stuff, this is what our solution is at the moment, anyway.
Okay.
Does that suffice, Madam Clerk?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have an answer for all that.
Well, I just hate to pay these people to do what we were supposed to be doing. And if Scott's gonna tell them where all the stuff is, then he should tell us.
Why are we paying them then?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the ease of access and this stuff and the accuracy and everything becomes that much better with this.
Plus, they're going to digitize it for us.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's going to be, there's a thing called ArcGIS.
It's fine.
RCIS?
ARC, ARCGIS. It's called like an ARC viewer. That's what the county uses. The county actually was excited. Their planning group said, hey, if we can help out, anything too. So,
So what will we get? I mean, will they give us a map then, or what are we gonna
yeah, we'll have digital files.
Okay.
We can probably print, like, we don't have the printer, but I know the county does as one of those big plotters.
Plotter.
You know, you get kind of those roll-up maps that we have that can be as big as this table, or we'll have it both digitally and paper format capable. The challenge, though, like you're saying, is that we don't have a lot of this written down for various and it's something I tried to work on over the last year, but it's I mean, there's plenty of reasons why there's not getting written down, or it hasn't been before, or it's just not, we don't have the capacity to do it. We don't have the capacity for sure to do it digitally.
Well, I'm concerned about the budget, and I think part of this money is gonna come out of the sewer fund. And I really cuddle to the sewer fund, because I know the money
Well-
is draining fast. So, no, but that's my comment, so.
That's why, and that's, so, I live and die by this, which the clerk hates, but we did budget for it. That doesn't mean apparently that much as I thought it did, that we said we could spend the money. That is half the battle is budgeting. The other thing is this program, we're paying $5,700 through the GIS consortium with AWC, who manages this. That's due now,
Right.
but the additional consulting hours, that it goes from now until September of next year. So some of that money that, even though we
The
budgeted for
balance,
this
yeah.
year, if we don't use those, if those consulting hours are going to come, because this first initial set is 40 hours. Is it 40 hours?
I believe so.
40 or 45
The
hours.
57 is for 40
Yeah.
hours. Okay.
And then the rest of it then is going to be, say, consulting hours. So it billed at 125 an hour, I believe, or
Yeah.
110, some god-awful number. But that carries over through next September. So even though we've budgeted for it this year, it might carry over for next year, and we might not spend all that money this year anyway. So
We essentially buy a membership a calendar year, so when we sign that agreement, we have a calendar year not only to be in this consortium, but then as he's saying, if we use all of our hours in the next month, then it's gone. If we don't and we end up using only a few of them this year, then we can roll things into the next budget, and essentially as long as we're a member, I mean, if it took us, for some reason, it took us 3 years to use those hours, we're able to do that, as long as we're still a member. And that's it on a yearly basis, so.
The membership cost is gonna be what?
this year is $5,700 for the level that we bought because we bought more hours.
Yeah.
Next year we can drop down to the lower level, which is like $2,500,
But
$2,000.
the membership itself is only a few hundred.
Oh, 400, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
We still have to be tier 1 though, I think.
well,
But it's something that I feel like right now though we've covered our bases, like we've prepared for it, we planned for it, and some of that money, if we don't, the $5,700 we're paying up front right now for this budget, but the balance of that could be spread out over the next,
Till September of 2020.
if necessary.
Won't this aid, from my understanding, also in the future, like with asset management, of knowing what we have underground, correct?
Yes, it's a key
I mean, it's-
piece of that
yeah.
asset management and planning. Yeah, to know what, because right now I've talked to Scott and he'll remember that in '83, or back in Nam, they did this section and somebody used Orangevale, in '57 over, or was it Orangeburg, which is some different kind of pipe, which collapses, which is what's failed in a lot of places. You can ask him that, and that's great, but we don't, to literally map it out, so yeah, to know, and that's going to help us then go when we work with, Steve Marsh at TD&H, when we do different, the water systems plan or any of these other facilities type of thing. So a lot of this stuff goes kind of say hand in hand,
Yeah.
but it's kind of being proactive in that sense.
and the speed of it too. You are essentially getting more out of this system as far as having it digitally and stuff, but the time that it might take a person or people to map out versus their 3 days and then some consulting hours to have it all at the touch of a button, and you can, reports, if, depending on what's included and what we need as a city, you don't know how many fire hydrants we have that in town. I can tell you that. It's like that, and everything is sped up just a little bit, quite a bit.
Okay. Let's see. What's another one that's kind of... the approval to amend the wage schedule to include the new hires. So last month, we discussed that, and we approved the salary for the clerk assistant, but we didn't have a full schedule. And so we printed that off, and we also, we had probably 2 or 3 different ones we had to put on there. Anyway, this is really just to clean that up so that, say, the official wage schedule, and it has the salaries of the clerk, public works, the mayor, the treasurer, the librarian, all that type of stuff. So I I guess we just need to, do we have a copy of that?
Yes, I do, but I don't know for sure where it is. Maybe it's on my desk yet. I didn't.
So we have copies here, so, just so you guys have that. Yeah, so, again, this is just to clean it up, but to, you'll notice some asterisks on here. The asterisk is just underneath and has an explanation. That's for the single asterisk for the city clerk assistant is saying that that salary that we approved was specifically from August 1st through December 31st of this year only. The double asterisk for both the clerk and the clerk assistant are for the additional pay for attending the meetings, the council meetings, and then the code compliance person, double asterisk, was just saying that's a 6-month position, which we've always, or the last few years that we've done it, has been that way. So,
Thank you.
entertain a so this is the official one that we have, that's public record and everything. So entertain a motion to approve that updated 2019 wage sheet.
So moved.
All right, by Councilmember McClellan,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Tipton. All right, any further discussion?
Sick leave on a salaried employee, how do I handle that?
Sick leave?
For
Well-
accruement, how they accrue
If you're on
their,
a salary and you're not getting paid for sick leave or vacation and you take sick leave, I don't know how to account for that.
Because I included holidays in here. I mean, the budget, well, the budget was 1,080 hours, which is basically 8 hours a day for the next, or 7 hours a day. Well, it was originally based on 1,080 hours, which is 6 months of work days, or of weekdays. Workdays. So this, I mean, the council, so holidays were included, but I didn't account for vacation or any vacation or sick, which, what do we, is it 2 weeks vacation we have for our employees now?
Well, for the first 5 years, I think it is.
Okay,
It's a week, and
that's,
then it
yeah.
goes to-
And then what about the sick leave accrual? How does that,
You get 1 day a month.
8
okay.
hours a month.
so this would be, like I said, from the budget perspective, it's in there because it's every day for 6 months. So I don't, but I didn't consider, like I said, because a position does not include insurance or any other kind of benefits that we have. So I don't know if the council's interested in entertaining that, since the way this is set up is to pay every day for the rest of the year, that we follow the regular schedule, one sick day a month for the remainder, for that period. Actually, it's 5 months, I guess, is how we.
Is yours, Bunny, and Scott's, is your guys's, is it a sliding, does it get a larger amount of hours accrued per number of years served?
No.
Not sick leave.
Does vacation?
Well, after 5 years, then you
Go
get 2
to,
weeks.
and it stays?
Yeah,
Is it
Okay.
1 week for the first 5?
Yeah.
I think it's the first 5.
Okay.
I'd have to look for sure, I'm not positive.
So potentially, we're looking at, this is for 5 months. So we'd be looking at 5 sick days, and if it's a week over a year, either 2 or 3 vacation days. Holidays were included, the holidays that we observe as a city. So I don't know if if there's,
You know, and just split it. Would it be fair to split it in half? What if you're saying a week for?
well, sick days would be, it's one a
sick
month,
days is eight,
so it'd be
8 hours a
one,
month.
For a
or, set-
probationary period, we're gonna give sick leave and holiday and vacation? No? Is that, I thought that's what you said.
No,
he's thinking out loud, I
yeah,
think.
Okay.
I apologize. I don't know.
It is probationary, we have that, we put that in there originally. Like I said,
I've never known of anybody to have those types of perks on probation.
Yeah.
I'm just,
to not have them,
no.
okay? So, we can, I guess as I originally intended was to be vacation, but no other, say, benefits. If we want to leave it at that and accept that. So, there would be no, so the problem is, I guess, is if you take a day off, if you're sick, we're paying a flat salary.
Maybe we should pay an hourly wage, and then you could do that. It's only because when I go to do the payroll, I just need to know how that is gonna work.
Is this something that we would be interested or wanting to switch to hourly to alleviate that problem or that?
Well, we switched it last time to a
Right.
salary to alleviate that problem.
Is this something I could come in on my day off and make up the time?
I mean, that's the hard thing with salaries too. Like, I don't know if you guys, situations if you work on a salary or hourly, like I work on a salary basis in my regular job. Some days I work 5 hours, some days I work 12 hours.
Right.
It's the honor, kind of like the honor system, and that's, the weird thing is there's actually a law, or there's a rule in the making right now in the state of Washington that can't happen anymore because they think people are salaried employees that are getting taken advantage of by their employers because they're working 60 hours a week but getting paid for 40. Part of it didn't cross my mind because I mean, the other thing is, well, I've gotten, I guess, I'm thinking of my employee in my work, they'll take unpaid time, so they just don't, their salary, if it's unpaid, like if they take a sick day and it's unpaid, then you just basically figure out the salary divided by the number of work days that month, and you deduct that, or you deduct that amount, and it's a non-paid day because it's maybe that's the way to do it, is just if it's going to be unpaid, if you take a day off, it's unpaid, we just back it out of the salary amount.
I feel like that's appropriate and is fair.
I already wasn't paid for last month's council meeting. So if I'm not paid for this month's council meeting, that would just take away the council meeting pays.
No, we put on it, well, it's,
You know? You could look at it that way too.
that was a mistake, I think, a oversight, the council meeting from last month.
Yeah. But you could look at it that way. Look at the hours that I've missed and not pay me for the council meetings until those hours are made up. And I'll attend the council meetings, obviously.
Yeah, that's
So then.
partly that though is a paperwork nightmare. I mean, logistically trying to figure like managing that. We don't have a good system right now to manage it anyway. So
Could you summarize the issue at hand? What are you trying to decide? Salaried
so that we created a
pay
salary.
versus hourly?
So we created last month, we approved a salary for the
I
position
remember.
for the remainder. The issue came up though that never was addressed or considered was if there's any sick pay or vacation pay for the time between August and for the position at hand right now, for the rest of the year. Like I said, when I set it up that way, I planned for holidays to be paid, just as the office was closed, but no other benefits. No, we didn't have any health insurance, and we didn't have any, or like any of the retirement stuff that we have. You know, it's a different world. Now they tell you, like my HR department says, if you're sick, don't show up. Not for my sake, but for everyone else's sake, to get your neighbor sick. But then if you don't show up, you don't get paid. So that's why, like, on the west side, all the minimum wage jobs now get sick pay because those people, you know, in some of those jobs depend on it.
Yeah.
If they don't show up. And so they're encouraged, you know, otherwise they're going to be sick and they get everyone else sick, and especially in food. I mean, so it's kind of like a rock and a hard spot. What do you do? The person's not going to get paid because they're sick, but they don't have any sick pay, so they're encouraged.
Double whammy.
Yeah. And so, but it's creating a problem for when we do payroll right now, because it did happen, I guess last month at the end of the last month, or this, when we had, Janice took a sick day, or a day and a half. I don't know if it was more than a day, but a day.
11 hours.
Okay, so a day. And now it's like, how do we figure out how to, if that comes up, when it comes up, how do we deal with it? And so it was something that I failed to navigate when it came up. So
What's the mayor's thought on during the probationary period of sick time is non-paid? Taken back out of, just like you explained, out of that salary for it's a month, right?
Yeah.
Per month.
yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm indifferent to it. I think in a probationary period, that's, you know, if a person, because then I guess if they take more than, if we have 5 days here, they take 2 weeks off, at some point they're going to exhaust all their sick days. So, you know, again, we don't want to encourage somebody to get paid but to not show up. So, I think it's probably fair to, in a probationary period, to not have sick pay and vacation. We are providing holidays, but I could see it both ways. For me, I budgeted for it in this sense. I use that as a term, and that's probably the wrong. I mean, maybe I overuse that, but this is what we have here is set out that way. So, you know, it's one of the. We have later on here some policies. We should have a policy for this, but we haven't had to deal with this in a long time, so there's no policy, and I didn't think about any unintended consequences ahead of time. So, but you know, I mean, you have a recently new job at the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You had a probationary period probably that
Yep.
had some of those.
Yeah, I believe I still accrued it, but I could not use it. If that makes sense for those hours, they gave me those months of service for accruing stuff, but I was.
But we don't carry that over here anyway on a year-to-year basis.
Makes sense. So what do you need from us?
To whether know if we think that we should pay vacation day, or if there should be any vacation days that accrue at the current thing right now. So that would be, if it's 1 week a year for the first 5 years. I mean, so it's only 5 months, so it's 5.
3 days.
5/12. So it's 3 days of vacation and 5 days of sick days. If that's fair, or if we. No, I'm sorry that we got in the weeds on that. I mean, I didn't think about it before, so.
We don't have an employment contract with the trainee yet, do we?
No.
So, that's subject to negotiation, I should think.
We're negotiating it right now, because that's where, I mean, because like I said, that's why I said it for the council, it's really, It doesn't cost us any more than what we have here, because that's what we budgeted for. So,
I think, in my experience, I agree with Janice. There's not usually sick and vacation on probationary period, and I'm preferring that.
okay.
Just for the next 4 or 5 months, you're saying?
So,
Till the
end of this,
end of the year,
period,
is
yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, it would be for this. It's for this position. And this position right now is set for, right? I mean,
Until the end
till
of
the
the
year. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll accept that as a motion from Councilmember
Alrighty.
McClellan to keep the salary as it is, but then not, if there's any, there's no, in the probationary
No paid
period,
sick day.
no paid sick or vacation days. And if those days are taken, they'll be taken as unpaid and then be back out of the
I think
salary.
that's fair.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember McClellan. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Seconded by Luck. Any further discussion? In addition, sorry, we just need to approve this as well. So are you approving this wage sheet?
There was a motion.
Yeah,
and a
we did
second.
before that.
I know, but
Oh,
we never got,
Motion
oh, that
carried.
was the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, sorry. All right, my bad.
We
Okay,
didn't vote on that, did we?
no,
Right.
no, we didn't.
But we don't have a motion on the table,
we do from McClellan, seconded by Luck.
but not with regard to this.
We do earlier.
Yeah,
That's an earlier motion that,
So it's two different things.
I seconded it before that came up.
Oh, yeah, McClellan and Tipton, sorry. So, since this came up in the middle of it, we vote on this one first,
okay,
and then we vote on the second one.
okay.
So the motion right now on the table then is for the sick leave and no sick leave, no vacation pay during the probationary period. McClellan and Luck. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, passes 4-0, thank you. And then now the original motion at hand, just to approve our 2019 wage sheet as presented, which we previously discussed, but had to add these new positions in here to update it. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Great, thank you, 4-0. Thank you guys for hashing that out with us and helping make that there. Okay. Let's see. Tim, do you want to, or Councilmember Tipton, I guess kind of combine both the Town Square project and we can talk together if we need to fill in on that fundraiser piece?
Okay. So as of right now, today, we've raised $12,320 on our own to go. We're trying to get to 30 so that Inovia will match the 30. So that's where we're at as of today. I got some more pavers sold today that came in the mail, so that's not accounted for. Over the next 2.5 weeks, you will see the masons start working on the remnant wall and the parapet for that building. It's left there, the building that's next to it, so that no more damage. Up on the above where the parapet is, there's a gap that's missing because the roof flashing was never finished. We've gone over this before. The guy died. So that is going to be started, and he's going to work his way down, and then the whole wall will be sealed so that there's no further deterioration and liability there. The plants, the trees, I spoke with Kathy yesterday. We have 7 trees going in that lot, 5 different varieties. After the street dance, there's some excavating that is going on in that lot, and some of the areas where the trees are going is going to be excavated, so that Kathy is going to start bringing the trees home over the next couple of weeks, that we're going to get those in the ground to be planted. They're recommended to be planted in the fall, start watering them, so that they will take going into the winter, going into the spring. What else on that?
Novia was here today.
Yeah.
They did interviews with Tim as the chamber, well, actually, as the RV park owner, Karen Allen, Paula Harrington, Jill Barth and her daughter Sydney
You guys.
Plaxkin, myself and Heather, and then they came up to the Opera House afterwards, and they are producing, I guess,
It's with KHQ.
they contract, I think, with KHQ, the news organization, to come in and video, and they're going to build for their fund, or
They have
like
a conference in
a
October.
marketing piece, because we have through the end of this year, and so they're going to put this thing together and then kind of show these tidbit stories of why I think Harrington is great and how Novia is helping us, and so that was pretty cool. That happened today.
Yeah, that was pretty cool today.
So, all right. So part of that, then the second part of that is, I briefly mentioned in that email too, and you've probably seen flyers and some postcards in different places. There's having on the Friday of Fall Festival,
27th.
the Chamber is hosting a fundraiser.
27th.
The 27th. The Chamber is hosting a fundraiser, which includes, it's multifaceted. It includes a farmer's market,
Street dance.
street dance, and a beer garden. The street dance is going to be in front of the city lot. We have the DJ, Kevin James, which father of Tyler James that was here. He's a
Alumnus.
Harrington alumni, local celebrity on country music station.
Country radio.
He talks about Harrington quite a bit on the radio. So he'll be out here. And then, like the farmer's market, they have people selling eggs, and a lady from Reardon's bringing a meat tray, she's a cattle rancher.
Yeah. Beef and pork.
So, and then a beer garden. The Opera House is going to be open for tours, I think, in the day, a little bit on Friday. And then on Saturday, they're going to be open. They're, I think, going to be there a little bit on Friday night as well, just to have the lights on and whatnot. Not really open for tours as much that night because they're going to do it the next day. So they're getting involved there.
Harrington Days is the 21st, isn't it?
28.
28th.
28th.
It's the fourth Saturday of September.
Oh, okay. I'll be
Um,
here. I thought it was the 20th.
It's the next
21st.
day, yeah.
Yeah, it's the next weekend.
So the idea with this fundraiser, street dance, was to kind of showcase, when that town square is done, what can be done at that location, where we can have these little farmers markets and whatnot type of things, like a jump off point that is in the downtown area, as opposed to having to be up at the city park, because we're lacking that here. So that was the idea, and people asked. There used to be a street dance for Fall Festival, so the promoting that we have done on it, and we sent out over 600, there's a 600 alumni that we sent out, people that we think could come, or people that are out of state that aren't going to come. We sent out if they want to donate, or if they want to buy a paver brick, and I've already got some of those back. We posted on, there's an Instagram and a Facebook page specifically for that project. The event is getting pretty good response as however they do that on Facebook, whether people are coming or not. So it is promising. We're just trying to capitalize on the alumni that is coming here to maybe, get some funds towards that matching grant, as we're going into the fall and the winter time. Novia will touch base with me in December to kind of see where we are at and then go from there. But the deadline is December 31st of this year to try to get to 30,000, and they'll match 30,000.
So the other part of that too, the chamber
Yeah, you could
funding
talk.
request is, they've reached out to several community groups, the Lions Club, individuals, 4x4 Club, I think they talked to you guys, themselves,
PDA.
PDA, and so they're trying to raise money to put on this street dance part. This is
Costs
for the,
money to put it on, yeah.
for the street dance. This isn't to go towards the beer garden
No,
piece.
no.
It's really for just the street dance. And so they've, in recent days have been, or recent weeks have been asking, and they're now, there's about $350 left that they're looking, and so they were asking the city if the city, since it's a city property or project in the big picture, if we can contribute the remaining $350 for what they're looking at for those, for like the supplies, the printing costs, the mailing costs. It ended up being around, I think the estimate right now is around $1,100. So,
And that's on the cheap. If you were trying to do something like that, it's on the cheap. We try to be as frugal as possible.
and so the $350 left is what they're asking, and they said if there's no, if it ends up being more, or ends up being less than that, that they'll just donate that money to the project, that it gets matched by, it goes into the general pool. And again, versus, because some individuals might have given $50, so instead of trying to say, oh, we only spent $1,000 instead of $1,100, trying to dole back that remaining, they'll just donate it to the project. So, it came up this last week that that's where they're at, reaching out to their folks, and so they're requesting the city be willing to put forth $350 for the fundraising efforts. So I guess we probably need a motion if the city's willing to do, or the council's willing to.
What other money has the city put forth for this project, if any?
The
up to
project,
date?
the sign that we have in there, the city paid
Oh, right.
for that.
Yep.
That was like $350.
Yep.
Also,
And then those little cards, the cards that we had made up, the
Right.
chamber and the city council, the
Split
city,
them.
we split
Yeah.
that. That was $120, $115. No,
Split.
it was split. It's $57.50 each.
and then we also had hours of Scott putting some of that stuff together, when he was working, like just getting it ready for I think the car show. I mean, just
Yeah.
so a few man hours
They
that,
moved the fire truck over there.
yeah, that way. So
It's been minimal, that the city has contributed towards the project at this point. It hasn't been, it's been on the minimal side.
I move that we give the remaining balance for the fundraiser for the Town Square project of $350 to the chamber.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Luck to provide $350.
Second.
And
Seconded by McClellan. $350 to go towards that fundraiser project,
Correct.
knowing that if there's any dollars left
Just gonna
over,
say-
It's gonna
no,
go right into the
on
grant
the-
money, yeah.
Yep.
and which will then be double. I mean,
Double.
it's a,
They'll match it.
Right.
Yep.
so,
Tell me which fund you'd like me to take it from.
I'm gonna guess current expense.
But I mean park or what?
Oh, yeah,
What line item?
park.
Parks.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions?
I will abstain.
Okay. So 3-0-1 with Tipton abstain. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, policies and procedures for the city to consider. This is really just a kind of an FYI, and some of our committees can hopefully help with this in the next few months. But as we reported last time from the auditor, there's several things, a few policies that we should have in place that we don't, pertaining to fuel cards, usage by employees, city vehicles by employees, the daily depositing, another one. So those are things that we would need to work on. Another one just came up in the last few weeks, where we need to check now, but I just want to, I guess, get your guys' blessing to let it, if we think it's the same, but currently our city employee, Scott McGowan, is also the fire chief on behalf of the city and I believe the district, right? Is that right? The district? The fire district. So we're going to look and see if this has already been addressed in prior years. It's been a topic, maybe I found, or somebody gave me minutes today from 2003 relating to the city and the fire district, but Scott thinks it might be sooner than that, so maybe the last 10 years ago, where as a city employee during the daily a call, that as a fire provider or personnel, that he would, if he gets on a call in the middle of the day, he could leave his post at the city, still be paid for the city, and go do the fire stuff. We're gonna, like I said, look for minutes for that, because there's Scott is one of them, and the fire district is in another belief that was already addressed 10-ish years ago. So this came up recently where I didn't realize that was the case, and so I talked with our clerk and I talked with the fire district person, and we kind of had just different stories, and so we need to go back and look at our minutes to see. But in talking to I went and met with the fire district yesterday, and they talked about some other employers in town that the elevators and the chemical places allow, because they have fire district personnel, and so I just want to, I guess, get direction for the timing, because we're going to put a policy in place if we don't already have one, but that we allow, I say it's Scott, because it's no one else at the city. So at this point, it's unfortunately I have to name a person, but it's Scott, that we allow Scott to continue his city wage, or his regular rate of pay during a call, whether it's in town, and this is for fire only, right, Scott? Fire only, not ambulance.
Okay.
During, city hours or whatnot. We're gonna have to clarify, because there's a lot of things that could be, like if it's in the city, because the city contracts basically with the district to be the city provider, fire department. We don't have a city department, and so that agreement there is an agreement from 2002 that addresses some of those things, but it's more like a handshake agreement between a prior mayor and a prior fire commissioner president, who's neither one of those people are in those positions anymore. So I met with those guys yesterday, the fire district commissioners, at their meeting, and told them I'd like to work, for a long haul. We want to get this kind of ironed out, update the policy as necessary, because if it's city stuff in the city, when it's inside the city pays for the hours of the fire. We got a bill for the 2 fires that were last month, and we have a city truck, which they took on one, but they also took out 5 trucks apparently, 4 others, and so they charge a per truck. They're looking at like when they have controlled burns for out in the district, they charge $100 per truck
Per hour.
per hour. I don't know, per time, but so. That's stuff that's going to be hashed out we're going to try to work that. It's, like I said, there's a lot of unintended consequences. We have to kind of think of a lot of things, like the what ifs that will take I even told the clerk today, I was like, it's not something I'm going to shoot for by Friday, because one, we're going to look and see what was already written in the minutes, as well as there's a policy that's already addressed this, because like I said, it's possible that a prior council dealt with it, and if that's the case, then I'll bring that to your attention, and we'll follow that lead and update the policies or that contract with the agreement with the district is necessary. But until that time, though, I just want to make sure, or if you guys just give me direction, that I think it's a mayoral power, a power that, it's a decision I can make without you guys, but I want to get your input to make sure that, like I said, following what Scott has believed to be the existing practice, is that we would pay him his city wage if during a call, if it's like tomorrow at 2 o'clock and he's gone for 2 hours, that we would do that. And if that's okay. There's the bigger picture is, like, last year, or we get a call that you're out there for 5 days, or if it's a mission, if we're working on a mission critical project, we got a sewer line that broke and it's spewing raw sewage in the air, and a call goes out. Maybe that's not, that's the time that Scott can't leave, unfortunately, in that situation.
Situational dependent.
Right,
Yeah.
perfect, yeah. So, those are things that we'll have to, like I said, iron out and look and see if we have anything. Like I said, the clerk and I have been talking about this and trying to figure it out, but if you guys are okay with kind of say regular, I say normal course, but, and we haven't had that many calls this year. This year maybe that's why it hasn't come up that much, maybe in previous years. So, if you guys are okay with that, with just to pay him until we get it, like I said, hopefully by the next council meeting we'll have the chance to go through 10 to 23 years of minutes to see what that was and when, and
So
then
currently it stands, he leaves the city post for an out-of-town fire and gets paid for those hours at the city still, and then the fire pay from the district for a
yeah,
district fire call.
that's
Is that correct, Scott?
that's what you believe to be is the case.
Do you get paid for do you have to leave your job for fires?
Yeah. I don't have to, I'm able to.
You are able to?
Yeah.
And do you get compensated?
I don't know that honestly. Our time is all on a code system. So we have a specific code for that. If I'm gone for 3 hours, I put that code down 3 hours. They know that I was on emergency services.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how that compensation works, to be honest with you.
So then do you turn into the fire districts also? If you go, if you're working on a Harrington fire, you don't,
Correct.
huh? But they pay you too then, the fire district.
Yes.
We
But
get-
I don't think you're allowed legally to get paid
To
both
double
places.
dip,
Correct.
that's right. That's right.
But I don't know what's done at my work. I know that we say, hey, I was gone. I don't know if that's pulled out of.
So there's a lot of this stuff we don't know, and like I said,
Okay.
I've tried talking to district yesterday, they said that CPS or Nutrien now it's Nutrien, they allow it, and the grain elevator allows it for certain positions. Some positions they don't allow to leave. Guy, he said dumps the,
But they double dip.
is what yes. Well, the fire district doesn't care. They're willing to pay that time. Their thing is to them, is it minimum wage or very close to it?
Yeah.
But they said, why would a guy leave it if he's not going to get paid? Why would he leave his higher paying job to come volunteer? But it's a volunteer.
That's
position.
why you volunteer.
Well,
yeah.
I know that's so. So it's part again. That's what. So there's just I say misunderstanding. I've talked to Bunny about this quite a bit, and worked with Ann quite a bit. Ann, who's their secretary at the fire district, and that's the path we took. Scott has said no. It was a council meeting, and I had an agreement with Paul, and so it's just trying to figure that not saying that it didn't happen. It's just a matter of we don't have anything. I don't think that's written down, and they don't have anything written down. So it's just been. Like I said, it came up last time, and it got to a kind of a heated point to where it was like we have to figure this out, and so.
I think we just let you gather everything, and you can make a decision on your own.
But through the rest of this month, till the next council meeting, are you guys okay with? What the clerk had
Yes.
mentioned, we're okay with paying him regardless if the.
Whatever else happens.
Yeah, and then look into the legalities of that stuff too.
Yep.
I
Okay,
agree.
okay, that's all, great. Sorry that took so long too, but it actually is more important than
I have
we
one
realize.
question.
Yeah,
This is a volunteer fire department, right?
yes.
How is it that they're paid?
So the city of Harrington is.
I know who pays, but
They pay, it's volunteer that you go, but they do pay you
If you
a little
go.
bit of a wage. It's
If you
minimum
go,
wage.
yeah.
It's very small amount, but
Okay, I was under the impression that a volunteer was like My volunteer jobs were,
Mhm.
I didn't get paid.
That's right.
Nonprofit.
Well, until the
Yeah,
day
yeah,
I signed
yeah.
up for the fire department almost 7 years ago, I thought the exact same thing.
Okay,
I was
okay.
just there
Yeah.
to physically volunteer.
Until I got a
When I
check
joined
once a
too,
quarter,
yeah.
the first
You bet.
quarter, I was like, why am I getting
Okay.
a check? And it's,
Okay.
because, and it's
Yeah.
because you're volunteering, so.
I think
I
that's a
think
good,
everybody
I
that
think
started
that's fine.
recently has been under the same
I was
thing.
like, what? What's this check for?
I think that's fine.
Yeah. So, okay, the other interesting thing is, and it's gonna, I mean, this is part of this agreement, the city of Harrington is not in the fire district. So, I found this out yesterday. Originally, the city of Harrington had their own fire department. So we are covered by city of Harrington. The fire district was created, there's 10 of them in our county, right, 10? And they're all rural districts. Well, over time, just like the sheriff's department, we don't have a police officer anymore. We contract with the county. Well, this is essentially something like that. We contract,
Contract.
and the agreement right now we have is we don't charge them water and sewer for the building that's inside. That's the other unique thing, is their building, their facility is inside city limits. It's not inside their district. So it's like a donut, basically, the donut hole. And so in lieu of us not charging them water and sewer, we provide them a fire chief that has apparently, this is an agreement, that is what I was told, that allowed, between two prior people on their side and our side, that allowed the fire chief to come and go as necessary on these fire calls. So that's been in place apparently since 2002 or 3. So that's just what the other thing that came up in that conversation was, why isn't the city part of the fire district? And they're going to talk to our county commissioners to see, it would require a vote by our citizens to tax ourselves to be a part of
I
that.
was just gonna
But
say, most of it's because the city doesn't pay for it.
right, but
Yeah.
it's because of it takes a vote basically. So it'll be more as that agreement. I get that more of that stuff figured out. That contract. This was yesterday morning. This thing happened. This thing kind of blew up a week and a half ago, and they were meeting yesterday, and they said, "Well, we're going to make a motion at our meeting." And I said, "Well, wait a second. Our council doesn't even know this. They won't know it till the day after your motion. You guys make an agreement with yourselves of what you're going to do for us, but we have no idea. So let's at least go talk to our council first. Let me talk to you guys so we can put it out there." And so that's where we're at right now.
Okay,
So just FYI.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that was a big one. Get that out of there. Got that one done. Is that good, Scott? Good with that? Or, I mean, till we get it,
We'll
we'll,
get it figured out, yeah.
but at least you know that you going forward for the time being, which it hasn't been that often. I mean, we had the fire season this year was very generous to people. All right. One of the other easy things here is correct the numbering for ordinance number 498 to number 499. We voted on this last time. We just had the wrong number. So, is it a formal motion that we need?
No, I'm just gonna note it in here.
Okay. So you got council is all good with correcting our clerical
Just a
error?
series of numbers, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I think we have left is we have the AWC budget workshop. We have a IAC conference. Oh, and set date for council budget workshop. Right. So last year you guys, I mean, it was my first year doing the budget in that sense. A lot of work. And following, and we'll have Councilmember McClellan talk to us in a second about a workshop she just went to for 2 days with AWC. But one of the things in reading all these things is that I call it a workshop, but it's a council working session ahead of time. And so I'd like between now and the next meeting for us to try to set a date that works. And really what this purpose would be, because we do have a budget committee that consists of myself, Councilmember McClellan, and I think it's Councilmember Tipton.
Is it tipped? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But in thinking about this, I was like, well, the committee itself could go start and bring something up first, but we might miss something like that didn't even think about. So in lieu of wasting that time, I thought it'd be better for our council to try to come in, just like have a brainstorming session, get these things out on the table, things we need to consider, things that if we have to work extra hard on trying to crunch numbers and that we know that are going to be hot topics or potentially hot topics, and then have that that ad hoc committee, or that budget committee, go do that and then present at our next council meeting type of thing. So, I don't know if there's anything, that works, and this would just really be a brainstorm. We can look at our last year's budget, kind of think what we know that we might be thinking about for next year. We talked about the lawnmower or lawn service earlier. We've talked about with Steve Marsh at the last meeting about potentially raising the rates by $2, it was $2.77 or $3. So things like that. And if there's any other things that you guys see that you think are necessary. So I don't know if there's any days that don't work for people or that are generally good. Maybe, I don't know, if 2 weeks from now, the 25th is a Wednesday, if that's workable.
Is it better for you guys during the business hours during the day, or maybe something at like 6 or 7 o'clock? You guys have a preference? What time of the day? Justin?
6 o'clock would be great for me.
Something later, maybe?
I think if it's like, say, Wednesday, 2 weeks from today, as a Wednesday, you typically work during the day, and you're typically not in Harrington, I think.
Most of the time,
right.
Correct, yeah. And that's why I was curious. As I say, Fridays work well for me if you want to do it at noon versus, but yeah, evening works just fine.
And 2 Fridays from now is the Fall Festival
would
weekend,
not
so
work
I don't
on
know
that
that you're going to get there. So,
Yep.
Be setting up stuff.
and it doesn't, and maybe it's it doesn't have to be, it's really just a brainstorming session to get these things started, so then our committee, then we can come start working on that ourselves as a committee. But I just would hate to have us spend a lot of time bringing all this stuff together, and then we miss half the things that somebody else wanted, and then we have to kind of start over. So at least give us some give us some direction. Does Wednesday the 25th look?
25th,
Wednesday the 25th. It's 2 weeks from tonight.
as far as I know.
I'd vote for something maybe a little bit earlier that week for me, just personally for myself, but
I'm out of town
okay.
Monday and Tuesday of that week,
okay.
but I don't have to be here.
Let's set it, the 25th and see what happens if that works for.
That gives us 2 weeks then before the next meeting.
Yeah.
So it kind of splits the difference. Does that work for you?
That works for me, yeah.
Okay.
25th at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
close it.
Thank you. All right.
Could we send out an email on the 24th?
Sure.
Reminding everybody?
Yes.
Try to, yeah.
Yeah. I'll put it in right now. Okay, 9:25 at 6. Great. This is almost a marathon tonight, so let's see. Councilmember McClellan, can you give us a update on your budget workshop that you attended?
The most important thing that I learned during those day and a half of sessions is that I have no idea what I don't know. But there were a lot of resources talked about for budgeting tips and lists and different ways to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. One thing that they said is we should have started in June, but
The budget process?
yes, yeah,
Even for a town like our size, it's that far ahead, they say?
they didn't
Didn't specify
quantify the size of the town.
The fact that we're talking about it in September and making strides is a big deal for us.
Yeah.
I mean, relative to coming back in November. We'll shoot for June for next year.
There were a lot of suggestions, such as making the public aware of the budget process and asking them for their input. Questions like, what do you need? What can you do without? Do surveys, do door-to-door, engage students to deliver the surveys to the residents. I I have, you know, pages of stuff. So I'll bring all this with,
To our
as we
budget?
go.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
and this is my budget workbook, so
No, I
Where
really,
was,
it was in Chelan or Wenatchee?
Leavenworth.
Leavenworth. I'll leave
would
up.
you go again? Or
Oh, I
how about this?
definitely-
Would
I
you
def-
recommend it to somebody that's never been?
I think everybody should go, and I want to go next year. I really do. I took the basics because, you know, I am a, but they have sessions that I would have loved to have gone to.
Examples?
Huh?
What are some of the examples?
And I sent you guys all an email with the agenda and the PowerPoint presentations. Okay, building your first budget. I didn't get to go to that one. Oh, that's an extra. Long-term financial and community planning would be good. Oh no, I went to that. Taking your budget to the next level. Instead of doing the same thing every year, help it improve and be more fine-tuned. And all of this applies to us as well as, you know, Spokane or performance measures.
Except they have assistants that put all this stuff together for their
They do.
department heads.
They do, yeah.
Well-
So, take a look at the email stuff. If the links don't work, I've got it all here, and I can, you know, get together with you to make
Thanks for
copies.
sending that. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very
It
appreciative.
was very good, and I networked a little bit and met the town manager for Moses Lake, and very approachable fellow, young, smart, and so it's possible that if we run into any questions that we can't get answers to through AWC, which I doubt, we might go to him.
Well, great. All right, and then finally, then on here is the IAC conference, which is October 20, I believe 21st through 23rd or 4th.
Jeez.
Maybe it's the 23rd. Yeah. Actually, it's 22nd through 24th. I went to this last year. We have a budget, so it costs money, but we usually get that, they have a waiver for us, as a small city to send, I don't know, if at least one person, but, so they, I got to go last year, and it was very beneficial for me. Same exact kind of things that she talked about, networking. This is more back to projects like TD&H is there, all these consultants, so you just get a bigger idea. There's funding workshops, budgeting workshops, asset management and planning, value planning workshops. And so I was hoping, I talked to Councilmember Luck about it. I hadn't seen Councilmember McClellan since she left on her trip. And I don't know, Peter, any of us that want to go, I don't think I can go from the schedule, but I've already gone, so I'd rather have somebody else for the council, so we have just more people building this over time. So I'd encourage any of us to go, but I said I talked to Councilmember Luck about it too, to see if he could look at his work schedule and see if his, they were conducive to.
I'm gonna try to talk them into maybe just sending me.
It benefit the county too.
Yeah.
So just put that on your radar. I remember Mayor Haas had talked about he wanted to go the year before and he didn't, but that's what all the ecology people, the Department of Health, the public Public Work Trust Board, those guys are all there.
Oh,
And so it's a great, I mean, it's just it was overwhelming for me, you know, being there for those. I had to come back every night because I think we had a budget workshop one night. I was driving back and forth between me and Wenatchee.
jeez.
You know, so it was kind of nuts, but it was very, I learned a lot though too. And so I just encourage, you know, again, schedules are tough. Like I said, we did have some budget money. I don't know. I'll have to go back and see for the hotel. Because, you know, council member McClellan went to Wenatchee or Leavenworth and paid for her own hotel. So, so we do have a little bit of, we can look at, see how that breaks down and what we want to do. But if it's something you guys are, you know, by the time we meet next time, it'll be really close. So you do have to register and whatnot. But we
Is
get
this in October?
October 22nd through 24th.
Question.
Yeah.
What is IACC?
Yeah, I couldn't even.
Good.
It's an acronym.
Yes.
It's like the 30th year.
It's an Ackroyd.
Yeah. Let's see here. Infrastructure Assistance Coordinating Conference.
And where can we find information about the seminar?
I just Googled just now
It's on their
IACC
website.
and Washington popped up behind it, and I clicked that, and it took me right to it.
Okay.
It's all over AWC. It's all over MRSC. It's every state agency is there. Like I think I brought back these old books last year. Those were from the Public Works Board. You know, like I said, consultants are there, agencies are there. So
What's the A stand for again? Infrastructure Act.
Assistance?
assistance.
Coordinating Council.
Conference, yeah. So, all right, and with that, I will, I guess we'll probably need to close our hearing.
Do you need to mention this
Oh, yeah, so
just
this,
for information?
yep, Councilman Tipton discussed, or mentioned this, so as part of the project for the wall over here at the town square, their group has decided to go with a mason that's, I guess in town or around here, Wolf Creek Consulting, Brandon
Foley.
And so we're gonna get a check from
Novia.
Innovia. We have to pay him up front though, part of half.
Half deposit.
Half, so we're gonna pay that and then we're gonna get the money from Innovia and then pay that. So the bill we have in front of us is for almost $4,400. That's for I think supplies and
That's the full bill.
No,
That's half.
That's just
That's
half.
half, okay.
It's just under, it's like $8,700.
he gave us a discount, $1,500 discount.
And that turns into $3,000 towards the challenge grant, because they
Oh.
met, that's an in-kind donation.
Right.
So, and that's the group that they had a committee that worked there. Tim had a subcommittee or somebody that worked on looking at the blasting or
The
shotcrete versus
shotcrete
the
and-
brick and
Right.
stuff. So, so yeah, we have this here for that is due. Yeah, I guess.
And take it out of the park fund also, if there's money there?
Yes, if there's one. Yeah, if there's any other kind of community, I don't know what else.
Okay. I don't think there is.
We have to
but-
look at the budget. I mean, part of this is one of those, like, it's a crunch thing, because we're gonna get reimbursed for it, but in the meantime, we have to pay for it. And the reimbursement's gonna happen pretty fast, right?
Scared me,
No,
just gave me a
from
heart
what,
attack.
we'll
I was
have
like,
the
why-
check, we will get the check from Innovia before we even pay Brandon.
Oh, so I don't have to pay him right now?
No,
Oh,
you do not
okay.
have
I didn't know that.
to. You don't have to pay. You can wait until the check comes. And
Okay.
I was told today that it's supposed to be going out this week, the check.
Oh,
It's the
wonderful.
first time they've done this type of challenge grant, and it's the first payment out of the grant. So with
Okay.
their financial department, it takes a little longer for that first one. So she
Lot
said
of
normally
strings
it wouldn't
attached to
take
the
this
first
long to
one.
get the check out, but since it's the first one, there's some loopholes to get
We don't
through.
have anything in the budget that we put for that vacant lot, did we?
30,000, we had a $30,000,
Pass through.
there
So
was,
that, but that's in the budget.
it is.
Okay, so then I'm just gonna wait, and when the money comes, we'll put it in that pot, and then I'll write the check. Okay, that's good. That's what I needed. Thank you.
All right. So,
Don't we have to sign the bills still?
Oh, you
Yep.
do, Peter.
Yep.
Thank you.
Did we close the hearing?
We had to hear.
have to-
Justin was in the process.
so, is it a motion to close the hearing, or just do we close the hearing?
Just ask
There
if
you
there's
go.
any other
Oh,
comments.
is there any other comments or anything on our 6-year plan? Okay, then at 10:05 PM, I'd like to close the hearing, the 6-year plan.
Make sure you guys are more than welcome to, as we go forward, to suggest projects for future years or ask questions to me, and if I cannot get them answered, I will go to the person
You
that
sign
probably
this?
can.
Okay,
You
so
signed
then,
this?
and then somebody make a motion in a second that we accept the 6-year street project.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by McClellan, second by Tipton to accept our
6-year.
6-year plan.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you, passes 4-0. And then any public comments for those that waited patiently for 3 hours and 5 minutes?
I can imagine what the first comment.
Gosh, I'm mad. If we didn't take that 6-minute break, we would have been out of here under 3 hours, but now,
Oh, you've messed things up.
net time though, that's what I'm gonna do, net.
And we started,
Yeah.
yeah.
Seven,
time
that's
warrant,
right.
yeah.
It was a marathon, man. We had a lot on here. That's what happens when you meet once a month.
I'm solely in favor of 2 meetings a month.
I
So no
am
more,
too.
no comments?
I am too.
Okay, hearing no public comments, I move to adjourn at 10:06 PM.
So moved.
I commend everybody for having stuck to it.
Second.
All right, Luck and McClellan.
Justin, I'm going there on the 1st.
Pardon?
Tobias?
Yeah.
Good,
Okay,
staying away.
great.
Yeah, I did. I've got a
I
yawning problem.
will be here.
Docs don't know why.
Jess, any
Lack of oxygen.
future pointers for us? He's not in this.